subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Found carefully for the first time. He then began to understand the origin of this profession. As soon as he looked around, he saw endless alien garbage within his sight. This scenery gave him an inexplicable sense of horror and familiarity. The most urgent thing is to find a local to understand the situation here. Kyle thought for a moment, then suddenly looked to the left at a pile of garbage 20 meters away. He raised his laser gun and said calmly, "Come out. I found you." That, under the aim of the gun, a small animal that looked like a squirrel and a white bear timidly walked out in a humane way, bowed to Mr. Kyle, and whispered in a low voice, "Respected outer space warrior, I pay my respects to you. I'm just passing by here, and I am not in the same group as those scavengers just now. What species are you?" Kyle put down his gun and looked at the talking creature with interest. It is about the same size as a domestic cat on Earth, with white fur all over its body, which makes it slightly conspicuous in the dirty garbage dump. When standing, it looks like a bear that has been shrunk several times, but it has a squirrel's tail and ears. "My name is Bo. I'm a modified creature from a certain planet, a semi-finished low-level creature that has undergone illegal genetic and simulation experiments." The little beast said humbly with a humble attitude. "Bo." Kyle nodded and said calmly, "I need to know the detailed information of this place." "I'd love to answer that for you." Bo walked forward cautiously, spread his hands, and said seriously, "This is Sakar, located at the edge of the universe between the known and unknown worlds. This is where all the lost and unloved things are collected." Chapter 160 Massacre Saka. After hearing Bo's explanation, Kyle was stunned for a moment. Then he looked at the garbage seen all over the surrounding mountains again, and finally his eyes showed some understanding. No wonder it looks so familiar. Isn't this the lost land known as the garbage dump of the universe, where the Hulk and Thor have both fallen into ruins? Bo pointed his claws at the small, colorful wormholes scattered above his head and added, "The space on this planet is extremely unstable. There are countless wormholes surrounding and covering the sky. These unstable wormholes are connected to various parts of the universe from time to time, and are used as perfect garbage disposal sites by some civilized planets." "You mean when I was crossing the stars, I passed through an open wormhole and was dumped in as garbage?" Kyle pulled the corner of his mouth, as if he remembered something, and spread out his left hand to look at it. There were obvious burn marks left by the space stone on his palm, but the infinity gem was nowhere to be found. His mind quickly sank into the card space, and after confirming it again without any results, Kyle felt a little depressed. Not only the venom and equipment items, but also the space gemstones that are crucial for traveling through the space were lost. Bo saw that Kyle looked unhappy and said softly, "Sir, don't be sad. All lost lives, from high gods to low-level creatures, will find it difficult to escape the fate of being exiled here once they encounter the wormhole vortex. Do you consider this as comfort?" Kyle glanced at the little beast, shook his head helplessly, looked at the small wormhole that had returned to its original state and the garbage mountain he had climbed out of, and asked in confusion, "Wait, there was another friend who fell into the wormhole vortex with me. Why am I the only one who appeared here, and it didn't fall down with me? This is normal." Bo raised his claws, recalling the catastrophic scene of the giant wormhole vortex just now, and patted his chest with lingering fear. That was the red teleportation vortex, known as the Devil's Cave just now. Bo paused and continued, "It is formed by the collapse of a neutron star in the universe. Sometimes it is not a pure space wormhole, and there is often a time wormhole superimposed underneath. Even if you fall into the eye of the vortex at the same time, the place where you come out is fixed here, and it is impossible to say who arrives here earlier or later." Space-time wormhole. Kyle had a slight headache and asked calmly, "How long could the time difference be?" Was stretched out two little fingers and said, 1 or 2 weeks. Just as Kyle was about to breathe a sigh of relief, it quickly added, "Or 1 or 2 years. Kyle, isn't the difference between 1 or 2 years and 1 or 2 weeks too big?" If it takes Venom that long to get here, by the time his genetic disease hasn't been cured, the grass on his grave will be 3 meters high. No matter what, even though we haven't come to our ideal place, as long as this is a habitable planet and there are alien life forms, there is a chance that there are ability cards that can change fate. For now, let's gain a foothold here and explore and study this planet. Kyle's mood gradually calmed down as he thought about it. He looked at Bo from top to bottom. Under the sharp gaze, Bo's hair stood on end. He took a step back and said tremblingly, "Well, I'm just a low-level modified creature. My meat is not delicious. Outer space is so vast that there are all kinds of strange races, let alone Sakaar, a lawless place. In the primitive struggle for survival and resources, hunting as food is common. I'm not interested in eating you." Kyle shrugged and said, "Bo, I can make a deal with you." "What deal?" Bo pricked up his ears and looked at Kyle suspiciously. "You just came here. You should not have any Sakaar currency, and now you." Bo glanced at Kyle, who was only wearing a pair of shorts and holding 2 laser guns in his hands. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself and did not dare to say the word pauper. Kyle seemed to see through its thoughts. He raised his chin, pointed at the garbage mountain next to him, and said, "I'll use this garbage mountain to make a deal with you." "What did you say?" Bo jumped up and down, saying angrily, "I thought you wanted to trade the spoils from killing those 5 scavengers just now. From just now until now, you have been coveting that garbage mountain. That new garbage mountain has not been searched by anyone, so it has a lot of gold." Kyle looked at Bo calmly and said meaningfully, "You didn't show up just now. Maybe you wanted to come back here to collect garbage after I left. You should be a scavenger too." "This?" Bo scratched his head awkwardly after Kyle saw through his little trick. After thinking for a while, he gritted his teeth and said, "1 high-voltage laser gun, plus the first search rights for this new garbage mountain, and I will agree to complete the deal with you." "No problem," Kyle said cheerfully and threw the laser gun in his hand over. Bo easily caught the laser gun that was bigger than him, hung it diagonally on his back, and said, "You are a very good person. You didn't force me. Tell me, what do I need to pay?" Kyle smiled and said seriously, "I need a tour guide who can show me around and help me settle down on this planet. At an unknown time, in a garbage dump somewhere on Sakaar." As small wormholes in the sky scattered small pieces of garbage, a spherical object composed of metal arm guards, strange rings, energy pistols, etc., fell down and hit the garbage river, splashing some waves. "Huh." A lone humanoid scavenger not far away looked up and saw this scene. He rushed into the river quickly and fished frantically in the water without caring about the dirt. After a short while, the humanoid scavenger excitedly picked up the balled-up patchwork items and wiped them clean with his cloak. With a slight tug, the humanoid scavenger pulled the vibranium arm guard away from the spherical object, pulling out several sticky black lines wrapped around the arm guard, which were too tough to be torn apart. "What seems to be inside?" the humanoid scavenger muttered doubtfully, holding the spherical object in both hands and putting his eyes close to the gap, trying to peek at what's inside. "Call out." Black liquid gushed out of the spherical object like an explosion and splashed on the face of the humanoid scavenger like an octopus. The humanoid scavenger didn't even make a whimper, but fell straight into the river with a whimper, struggling and waving his limbs to slap the garbage and river water. Gurgle! The humanoid scavenger's body sank to the bottom of the river. Some bubbles appeared, and then he suddenly stood up again. His whole body was covered with a layer of black keratin membrane. His muscles were bulging. He looked several times taller and stronger, and his facial features were as hideous and terrifying as a monster. "Finally got rid of that, man." The humanoid monster grinned fiercely and uttered a hoarse and violent voice. "I don't want to be Venom anymore. I am Massacre." Saka Star, the main city of Saka. The sky, filled with dark clouds and small black holes, became even darker and more hollow, like an abyss after nightfall. There was not even a glimmer of starlight, representing hope, and even the slightest light from the ground shining upwards was swallowed up by the black hole. The main urban area is crowded with all kinds of bizarre buildings that are pieced together and feature high technology. At this time, the neon lights are shining everywhere, which is extremely dazzling. On the brightly lit main street, There are blue-skinned aliens, stone men made of brown stones, fish-headed men with scales, big-eyed monsters with big eyes and small heads, and so on. Creatures from different planets break racial boundaries and parade and revel in passion, as if they are venting their unhappiness during the day. Sakaar is a lifeless planet, so there are no natives. The people here are basically creatures from all over the universe. They got lost and fell here, and only those who survived became locals. The short man by Bo explained, holding a heavy sack that was 5 times bigger than himself in his paws, which he placed on his thin shoulders and dragged forward with some difficulty. Next to him, the tall Kyle had changed into a hooded leather jacket and jeans, carrying a military backpack stuffed with for laser guns. General spacecraft cannot break through the wormhole vortex of Sakaar, so the creatures that enter here are like entering a planetary cage, unable to escape for the rest of their lives. In addition, food resources here are scarce and expensive, and the competition for survival is huge. Even the locals can't tell when they will be killed by other scavengers in the wild, so they will revel and entertain freely at night. By Bo's side and took Kyle to avoid the bustling main street and take a secluded path from the edge of the desolate and remote wilderness deeper into the city. With his brows slightly furrowed, Kyle suddenly paused and looked towards the corner of the building behind him. Bo seemed to have noticed something strange about him, so he put down the sack and turned around to ask, "Mr. Kyle, what's wrong?" "Someone is following us," Kyle said with certainty. His 5 senses were all at an extraordinary level above that of humans, even sharper than those of some wild beasts, and the enemy's tracking was too rough and casual, so it was hard not to notice it. "Are you sure?" Bo's bare face changed slightly, and he whispered, "Put on the scavenger's ID card." Kyle nodded, reached into his pocket, and pinned the ID card of the scavenger leader he had killed earlier on his left chest. As soon as he put on his ID card, the other party seemed to know that his whereabouts were exposed. He chuckled and walked out of the alley in an exposed manner. Kyle looked in the direction of the shadow, his pupils contracted. It was a large-eyed alien with eyes as big as an adult's fist, occupying 1/3 of the blue face. The eyeballs kept rolling as it stared at the two of them. "Bo, you've gained a lot today," the big-eyed monster said with a chuckle. "You again? Why are you following me?" Bo's face was filled with disgust. He touched the laser gun on his back with his claws and said coldly, "If this wasn't an urban area, I would have blown your eyes out long ago. You can't be so lucky every day. Remember, don't let me find you in the wild, otherwise I will definitely taste your meat," the big-eyed monster said, saliva flowing out of his mouth disgustingly, and his big tongue quickly licked it back. His blue eyes turned and looked at Kyle, saying with ill intentions, "Is he new? What planet is he from? This is none of your business. Kyle, let's go." Bo snorted coldly, turned around and waved, grabbed the sack with his claws, and walked away. Kyle glanced at the big-eyed monster, memorized its ugly appearance, and then followed Bo's pace. Behind him, the big-eyed monster's frantic cry could still be heard. Hey, don't let me see you in the wild, or I will make you into a delicious meal. Don't worry about it. No one dares to take action in the main city of Saka." Bo ignored the warnings behind him and said confidently as he walked, "Is it because of this ID card? Are there rules and laws here?" Kyle asked, pointing to the ID card on his left chest. "The scavenger's identity card is one of the guarantees for survival as a local on this planet. The most important thing is look." Bo suddenly looked up and happened to see a disc-shaped spaceship flying by at a height of 50 meters. The large light under the spaceship kept scanning the streets below. Kyle watched the silver disc-shaped spaceship fly away quickly. This hovercraft was much more advanced than Earth's fighter planes from World War II. Even Wakanda had not yet reached this level of technology. Bo reminded him, "This is the supervisory guard of the main city of Saka. In the garbage dump in the wild, you can do whatever you want, and killing and robbing are commonplace. In the main city, it is an absolute safe zone, and any form of fighting and robbing is not allowed. Otherwise, the consequences will be worse than death." Kyle nodded in understanding, his eyes sparkling. This sentence had another meaning, which was that as long as they were not discovered by the supervising guards, it would be fine. "Since you are my guide, I have one most important point to remind you. This is also a rule that all creatures that come to Sakaar must understand clearly. Bo spoke in a heavier tone, dragged the heavy sack, quickened his pace, and took Kyle through the edge of the main city. After turning a corner of a street, he looked forward with a serious look. Kyle also stopped and looked up. What came into his sight was a strange building standing like a dense forest. At the end of his sight, in the center of the main city, a building that was about 10 times taller and more majestic than any other building stood out from the crowd. On the front of the central building, a projection of a middle-aged man several hundred meters tall is maintained using holographic projection technology. He is dressed in gorgeous and noble clothes, looking down at the main urban area and even the entire planet. Dozens of disc-shaped spaceships, centered on the portrait of the person in the central building, were circling and spreading their lights continuously. He is the original, the first life lost here. He is known to have survived for millions of years. He is the only supreme master who developed and built Sakaar. His name is Gao Tianzuan, and the locals here generally respectfully call him Grandmaster. Bo lowered his head and said solemnly as never before, "On this planet, everything belongs to him. He is the ruler who guards and supervises, and the one who cannot be provoked. No one else." Master Gao, Kyle pondered, his blue eyes revealing a hint of deep meaning, and he felt that his ultimate goal of coming here had been achieved. Bo didn't know Kyle's thoughts, so he warned him again. If you want to survive here, don't try to contact him. As the elder creature of the universe, the Grandmaster is moody and difficult to get along with. "Don't worry, I'm not that stupid," Kyle replied with a calm smile. Of course, he would not approach the Grandmaster before he was sure enough. But once you are confident or your body can no longer support you, that will be another matter. As an elder of the universe, Gao Tianzuan might have suitable ability cards that can be extracted. Chapter 162 Item Exchange. Bo dragged the sack and took Kyle with him all the way into the central area of Sokka's main city. All kinds of aliens on the street glanced at the two of them, as if they were used to it, and soon indulged in their own night of revelry. As we approached the inner city area of the central building, the strange buildings became more prosperous, and the number of Grandmaster Guard spaceships became denser and denser, with lights sweeping back and forth in the sky almost nonstop, giving people an inexplicable sense of security and deterrence. Bo, is your home in the inner city? It seems that you are doing pretty well on this planet," Kyle said in surprise, staring at his surroundings. "No." Bo's face was a little embarrassed when he heard it, and he sighed and said, "You don't know how expensive the housing prices in the inner city are. The cheapest single room starts at millions of Sokka coins, and the ownership period is only 20 years. The rent for a standard room in a hotel basically costs about 10,000 Sokka coins for a week." Sokka coin? Kyle was slightly stunned. Bo seemed to understand his confusion and explained, "The standard high-voltage laser gun in your backpack can be exchanged for about 10,000 Sokka coins each." When Kyle heard the price ratio and did a quick calculation, his heart trembled slightly. A high-tech laser gun can only be exchanged for 10,000 Sokka coins, which is only enough to pay for a week's rent for a standard room in an inner-city hotel. This is really too much of a ripoff. Those who can gain a foothold in the inner city should be elite aliens from other planets in the universe. Kyle thought to himself, the reason why high-voltage laser guns are not expensive is that they require energy to be recharged after use. Energy and food are considered luxuries on this planet, Bo said with emotion. "My dream now is to work hard to pick up trash and save money so that I can buy a single room in the inner city of Sokka and become a safe inner-city resident. But this is too difficult." Bo's dream is also the pursuit of most creatures who have fallen and lost on this planet. Kyle shook his head secretly. He had no plan to live on Sakaar for a long time. Instead, he wanted to gain a foothold on this planet as soon as possible and find out whether there were any higher dimensional life forms. After all, he only had about 6 months left to live, and he couldn't delay any longer. "Okay, we're finally here." Panting rapidly, Bo stopped in front of the door of a disc-shaped building on the main road. Kyle looked up. The building in front of him seemed to be converted from a small half of a medium-sized battleship. It looked luxurious and very technological. There were stone men holding laser guns on both sides of the door, as security guards. This is the bank property owned by the Grandmaster. Inside, you can exchange all valuable items for Saka currency. Bo said, and once again picked up the sack that was almost crushing him and walked in. After showing his scavenger ID card, the security guard made way. Kyle followed Bo into the room. The lobby on the first floor was spacious with several reception rooms with partitions. Mr. Kyle, you need money in your daily life on Saka. I suggest you exchange your laser guns for some Saka currency. Bo gave the suggestion, and then under the strange gazes of many aliens, he carried the dirty sack and walked toward the reception room. Indeed, money is needed everywhere. Kyle shrugged, thought for a moment, and walked into another single room. Scavenger number 266. Welcome to the Saka Exchange Center. I'm the receptionist Only. I'm happy to serve you. The receptionist, named Only, is a female alien who looks like a human, but the skin exposed by her uniform is pink. She greeted Kyle, who was approaching through a layer of energy protection net at the reception window. I want to exchange for Sakar currency, Kyle said bluntly, reaching into his backpack and pulling out 2 laser guns. Henry's face changed slightly, but she relaxed after Kyle simply placed the guns on the window. You must be a new scavenger. This kind of offensive thermal weapon usually needs to be identified at a specific window, but I happen to be free tonight, so I'll make an exception and help you exchange it. Emily pressed the button, and 2 laser guns fell into the window. She picked up the instrument for professional testing and identification and quickly completed the analysis. High-voltage laser rifle, 80% intact, 1 energy slot left, can be exchanged for 10,000. Another sword of the same model, 85% intact, with 2 energy slots left, can be exchanged for 12,000. And Lee concluded, the 2 items together can be exchanged for 22,000 Saka currency. Do you want to make the transaction? Deal. Kyle nodded in confirmation, feeling a little headache. 22,000 is not enough to stay in a hotel in the inner city of this planet for a month. Does he have to live like Bo, picking up garbage or killing people for money? Cash or a card? If you have never had a card, you can spend 1,000 to get a new transaction card. Lee put away the 2 laser guns and did not forget to sell. Then let's do it. Kyle frowned deeply. The cost of traveling to Sakar was so high, and this was not a solution. I'll do it for you right away. Lee stood up, but was quickly stopped by Kyle. Wait a moment. Kyle seemed to remember something and reached into his military backpack, pretending to search, but in reality, he was drawing from the card space and took out an object that turned into a physical entity. The round steel ring fixed the light blue energy block inside, and the glowing white and blue light filled the entire reception room. This is... Henry opened her eyes wide in surprise. The light of the energy block reflected in her pupils. Kyle handed over the energy object. This is a product of my home planet, an energy substance called film money. Let's test it and see how much Saka currency it is worth. Lee carefully held the film money and tested it with the equipment. She frowned and asked, I'm sorry, the relevant information of this energy item is not included in the database. Please wait a moment. After saying that, Lee inside the window took the film money and hurried into the backstage. Kyle waited for about 5 minutes before Henry came back, followed by an alien with a big swollen head and glasses. Hello, Mr. Customer. This is our chief appraiser and the general manager of Saka Exchange. Lee changed her previous perfunctory address and tone to show much more respect. The alien brain held the film money in both hands, looked at Kyle, and said excitedly, Sir, where is your hometown? A planet with an inferior civilization is not worth mentioning, Kyle said calmly, unwilling to reveal any information about the Earth. You must be joking. This is a new type of artificial synthesis element, and it uses the element as a highly pure energy crystal. Such a small piece can supply the operation of interstellar warships. It has completely transcended the definition of energy and can be regarded as a work of art in science and technology. The alien manager rubbed the film money with fascination and said excitedly, It is impossible to produce it without an advanced civilization with top-notch technology and a huge opportunity. I don't understand the relevant knowledge. I just want to ask, what is its value? Kyle asked coldly. The alien chief thought for a moment, and held up a finger. If you are willing to sell it, I can offer 10 million. Chapter 163. The hunt begins. Kyle left the exchange reception room with a calm face. In his trouser pocket, there was a trading card with 1,021,000 Saka currency savings, a business card of the exchange manager, and a small note secretly slipped in by the receptionist Henry. Bo just happened to have finished calculating the sack of garbage with the waiter. He walked out of the reception window with a large sum of money in his pocket and secretly waved his paw at Kyle. "Mr. Kyle, this." Kyle walked over, and Bible pulled his trouser leg with his claws and urged him in a low voice, "Hurry up, get out of here quickly." Huh? Kyle was surprised and looked around. Then he understood immediately. In the waiting area of the exchange center's lobby, there were several aliens sitting in seats, secretly monitoring them, including the big-eyed monster that had previously followed the two in the outer city area. Leaving the exchange office building with Bo, Kyle asked him in surprise, "Didn't you say that looting is not allowed in the city? Robbery is not allowed." But the big-eyed monster just now belonged to a criminal team. Some of their alien members have racial talents and are very difficult to deal with. Once they lock on their target, they will carry out raids or thefts in the outer city areas where the guards and supervision are weak. Bo was extremely cautious. His pupils turned green at night, and he entered a state of alert. It did not replace or sell the high-voltage laser gun, but still carried it on its thin body as a weapon for protection and counterattack. "That's easy. We just need to stay in the inner city and not go out," Kyle suggested. "What are you talking about? Hotel accommodation in the inner city is so expensive. But I've already told you that there is a curfew after midnight." Bo shrank his neck, covered his bulging wallet, and said weakly, "Don't think of taking my money. How much did you sell that pile of junk for?" Kyle asked curiously. Bo said in a satisfied tone, "There are quite a few good things. I exchanged them for more than 70,000 Saka currency." The scavengers risked their lives to go out into the wild, but on average, each person earned less than 10,000 Saka currency per day. More than 70,000 is like pie falling from the sky. Kyle fell silent. He had 10 million on him, and before leaving the earth, Howard had hurriedly made 3 pieces of film money, all of which he took with him. 30 million. Seeing the high-end hotel near the central building on the roadside, Kyle didn't think too much. He grabbed Bo beside him with his left hand and walked towards that side. "Mr. Kyle, what do you want to do? Don't go over there." Bo wailed in despair, struggling in Kyle's hands, watching him walk into the hotel gate. "Hello, gentlemen. Would you like to get a room?" At the hotel front desk, the long-necked alien waiter was startled. He looked at Kyle and Bo, who was holding his hands, rolling his eyes, and almost fainting. "A double-room suite," Kyle said calmly. Hearing his words, Bo shuddered and groaned in pain. "No, treat me like a pet, and just give me a private room." The waiter nodded respectfully and said, "We charge by the week. Double rooms are priced at 100,000 and 50,000. Single rooms are priced at 30,000 and 20,000. The prices are fair." Bo's heart trembled. This price was really a blow to his heart. Kyle was very calm, nodded, and said, "Then it's 100,000. It's over, it's over." Bo was desperate and hugged his waist bag tightly. Kyle smiled secretly and took out the transaction card from his pocket to swipe the card to pay. When he heard the beeping sound of successful payment, Bo was completely stunned. After getting the room card, Kyle carried the stiff Bo up to the elevator. Outside the hotel entrance, the big-eyed monster was also confused and could only watch the two of them check into the inner-city hotel. He had originally made a plan to gather a few skilled members and try his luck in a familiar area in the outer city. Unexpectedly, the other party stayed directly in the inner-city area. Damn it, their earnings in the wild today are so huge that they've expanded and moved into a house in the inner city. That should have been my money. The big-eyed monster gritted his teeth and muttered to himself in anger and unwillingness. The inner city area is close to the Grand Master's residence, and there are densely guarded and supervised spaceships. Anyone who dares to take action in the inner city area will be sent to the duel arena for a life-and-death contest. Sighing helplessly, the big-eyed monster could only leave from the street in front of the hotel. If it gets a little later in the night, the whole city will be under curfew. It didn't notice that at the window on the 5th floor of the hotel, A pair of sharp and slightly cold eyes were watching it go away. On the 5th floor of the hotel, in the main hall of the double suite. "Mr. Kyle, I really didn't expect you to be so rich." Bo was still in some kind of dreamy state, sitting on the comfortable blanket on the floor, looking at Kyle, who was standing next to the window with shining eyes. "We'll talk tomorrow. Tomorrow you will be my tour guide and take me to get to know Sakar in depth," Kyle said coldly, returned to his room, and closed the door. "Where is this guy from? He's very strong and generous, but a little cold." Bo supported his chin and commented. In the spacious room, Kyle threw his backpack to the side of the bed, quickly took off his hooded wallet and jeans, waved his left hand, pulled out an item card, and transformed it into a real object. In the blink of an eye, a one-piece black tight uniform, the same style as Captain America's uniform during World War II, was quietly spread out on the bed. "Old buddy, long time no see." Kyle sighed slightly. Ever since the creation of Venom, this combat suit made by Howard has become a card sealed in the card space. He never thought that it would be useful one day. He picked up the combat uniform and began to put it on. From the neck down, he was soon wrapped in the tight uniform, revealing his perfect physique with streamlined muscle contours. The hood is gone. Kyle touched his smooth chin, and as if he remembered something, he continued to draw cards with his mind, and a beast-shaped black helmet appeared in his hand. This is a Black Panther helmet part made of pure vibranium, which was given as a gift by Black Panther King T'Chaka before his departure. The Black Panther suit is one of the royal inheritances of Wakanda. T'Chaka's gift of the crucial helmet component is a crazy attempt to go against the edge of violating his ancestors, and it represents a deep affection. Kyle originally kept it as a collectible, but now he has put it together with his old combat suit to form a complete set of physical combat uniform. Not to mention, the basic tone is dark black, and the Black Panther helmet and black combat uniform worn together seem to have changed into a more barbaric style. Kyle tidied himself in front of the mirror in the room, then opened the window, propped himself up with his palms, and leaped out lightly. "Stealth start. Climb start," mumbling silently in his mind. Kyle stood upside down on the outer wall of the hotel building like a spider, ran up quickly, stopped at the top railing, turned around and stood upright, looking down proudly at the huge and dazzling streets of the main city of Sakar. Just like a lone wolf, searching for prey in the dark. Chapter 164: Disturbance in the main city of Saka. Strange and advanced buildings stand like trees in a forest. Small patrol spacecraft occasionally fly low over the sky, and the shadows are blurred under the lights. Whoosh, a light-colored, nearly translucent figure, like a bloodthirsty beast hidden in the darkness, used the rooftops of the buildings in the main urban area as stepping stones, leaped and nimbly climbed the walls of its orbit, and quickly rushed towards the outer urban area without paying attention to the building shelters. The aliens who were talking and laughing and partying below, as well as the supervising guards on the patrol ship above, did not notice this scene at all. Some of them who were within 10 meters away only felt a breeze and a shadow passing by, as if it was an illusion caused by fatigue during the day and drowsiness at night. Buzz! At the border of the inner city, on the roof of a 3-story building, a 5-meter-high lamppost was shaking a little due to some impact, stretching downwards and reflecting a human-shaped black shadow. Kyle stood on the top of the lamppost with his feet straight, facing the evening breeze with aloofness. His sharp eagle eyes were cold, looking through the Black Panther vibranium mask to find the target's trace. Found it! Kyle stopped looking and stepped on the lamppost with a little force. The light bulb underneath couldn't bear the pressure and exploded. As the lights on the rooftop of the building dimmed, a black shadow swooped down straight ahead. In the outer city area of Saka, there is a dead-end street with a width of only 2 meters between buildings. It is a rare place without any lights, and it is completely dark. 3 aliens of different shapes and appearances, wearing black cloaks, were hidden in the shadows of the alley at night, with their backs against the wall, as if they were waiting for someone. "I'm back!" The big-eyed monster put his hands in his pockets and walked into the alley and said. One of the aliens, who was tall and thin with a bamboo-like body, walked quickly to the entrance of the alley, glanced outside, and quickly shook his head at the people behind him. "Ego, where are the 2 prey you mentioned? Did they run away?" Another big-eyed monster asked with wide eyes, and a little dissatisfied. You can't blame me for this. Who knew they would actually stay in a hotel in the inner city? The big-eyed monster named Igu was also very depressed, his eyes rolling around. Finally, I found the best target for tonight. A low-level polar bear modified by genetic experiments. A human creature that seems to have no fighting power and has enough money to stay in a hotel. In that case, let's go home early tonight. The human-shaped woman who stood at the end of the alley and remained silent said calmly, as if she didn't want to waste time. Ego, you should have informed us earlier and stopped them in the outer city before they could place their belongings. The big-eyed monster, who seemed to be the leader, scolded, looking at the woman covered in a black cloak with respect and fear, and said gently, Yeji, you should go back first. You have made a wasted trip tonight. Yeji nodded slightly, tiptoed, and walked forward with a cat-like step. The two big-eyed monsters, one big and one small, and the tall and thin alien leaned against the wall of the alley, leaving enough space for them. As she was about to leave the alley, Yi Ji frowned slightly. Her hair stood on end, and an inexplicable sense of oppression and fear arose in her heart. She didn't care about maintaining her elegance, and followed her instinct to roll over quickly on the spot, not forgetting to shout out an alarm. Careful! As soon as the words fell, a tall and strong black human figure fell from the sky and stepped heavily on the ground where Yi Ji was originally standing. Without any buffering force, and with his undisguised offensive intention, even the hard ground was slightly cracked, intimidating the faces of several people around him. Who is it? The big-eyed monster leader asked quickly, trying to buy enough time for reaction. Kyle had no intention of talking to them, and he decisively stretched out his fists like lightning, with the tips of his fists whistling in the wind, and his punches weighing tons of pounds slammed down on the big-eyed monster leader and the tall and thin alien who were trying to take out their weapons. The two men screamed, and without any suspense, they were bounced and hit the wall behind them, collapsing slightly into the wall. A huge, dull sound was clearly heard. So powerful. If I hadn't dodged it, I would have been seriously injured. Yi Ji continued to roll to create some distance between her and stood up, staring at the two wailing companions, secretly horrified. They are crazy. They actually dared to act so brazenly in the city. Don't they know that they will attract the supervising guards? The physical defense resistance is okay. Kyle retracted his fist and glanced coldly at the two aliens. If it can survive being hit by my punch, it can be regarded as a test of whether it is a species with a physique and vitality superior to humans. But that was all. From the moment he made his move, he decided to end the battle quickly. Kyle was just about to make up for the attack and deal with the two seriously injured alien lives first, when he suddenly looked up with awareness, and a burst of light blue energy exploded at close range, impacting him like ripples on water waves, covering the narrow space of the alley. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, Kyle thrust his forehead forward and used his head to hit the energy wave. The moment they made contact, a crackling blue arc of electricity erupted in the middle of the alley. Electric shock? Strands of electric arcs wrapped around his body, and Kyle felt paralyzed all over. He temporarily lost his body functions and fell straight to the ground. Who the hell are you? Igu held the electric pulse stun gun in both hands, staring at Kyle on the ground viciously, as if he wanted to eat him alive. Kyle didn't answer and remained motionless, as if he had been electrocuted and passed out. Kill him quickly and evacuate here. If you don't leave now, the guards will be here. Yi Ji urged calmly. If she hadn't had a friendship with this small team, she would have left here alone long ago. Fighting in the main city of Saka and being discovered by the guards is no joke. Yes, that's right. Iga nodded in panic, aiming the electric pulse gun at Kyle, lying on the ground. The blue light slowly lit up as if charging, and the energy gathered at the muzzle of the gun, which was the size of a baby's fist. Just before the electric pulse gun was about to fire, Kyle's eyes suddenly opened under the Black Panther's vibranium mask, and he stood up with extraordinary reaction speed, kicking upwards quickly, hitting the front end of the gun in Iga's hand. The barrel of the gun was kicked up and tilted, and a blue energy beam passed through one of Iga's big eyes. Iga hugged the wound in pain, fell to the ground, and rolled around groaning. The energy beam continued upwards, rushed out of the alley, and burst out blue radio waves in the low sky, which was as conspicuous as fireworks at night. "It's over." Yi looked at the radio waves in the sky above her head, and fear appeared in her eyes under the cloak. "I must leave here as soon as possible. If I don't leave, it will be completely over." At the same time, Kyle stomped on Iga's other big eye, and the sticky liquid stained the floor and the soles of his shoes. Chapter 165. Rare Purple Ability Card. As for Igu, the big-eyed alien, Kyle had already thought about killing it when he was in the outer city. He had just arrived on Sakar and wanted to get to know the situation and rules here carefully, without causing trouble too early. But Igu wanted to treat him as food, and repeatedly jumped in front of him to provoke him, glared at him and mocked him, and even planned a conspiracy. Rather than keeping this kind of alien until the future, it is better to kill it early, so that it won't pop up again to disgust you in the future. Kyle's face turned slightly cold as he thought about it, and he kicked Iga hard in the stomach again. With all his strength, Iga's body was like a deflated ball, and it crashed to death against the wall of the alley with a bang. Iga, the leader of the big-eyed monsters, was not dead yet. When he saw this scene, his eyes burst with anger, and he fainted from grief. "Next, it's your turn." Kyle raised his eyes, took a step forward, and prepared to take action, but suddenly turned his head to look outside the alley and saw the female alien who had originally fled outside, returning to the alley in a panic. "Damn it, look at what you have done," Yi whispered angrily. Kyle frowned, but soon he understood why she came back. The blinding daylight from the sky above, outside the alley, and from all directions focused into the alley, focusing on Kyle and Yeji, who were still standing. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Small spaceships were hovering in the sky above the alley, humming and filling up the night sky. Outside the alley, dozens of guards armed with laser guns blocked the exit, with the muzzles of their guns and lights pointed at Kyle and Yeji inside the alley. A hovercraft that is a bit larger than an ordinary patrol ship, equipped with a variety of high-performance weapons and more technologically advanced, broadcast down the alley. "Violators, you have been surrounded. Please do not resist in vain, because you violated the 5th rule set by the Grand Master, fighting privately in the city of Saka. I, the Chief of the Guard, arrest you and send you to the arena of life and death." It seems like we've gone a bit too far. Under the pressure of the spaceship's laser cannon and the guard's laser gun, Kyle shrugged and stood there, while Yi raised her hands helplessly and slowly approached where Kyle was. "Hey, if we get caught, we'll basically be dead in the duel arena. Why don't we join forces?" Yi said in a low voice. "Are you talking to me?" Kyle was stunned. In response, Yi snorted coldly. "Who else but you? In this situation, only if we two work together can we have a chance to escape the guard's pursuit. No, it's just a little unexpected. I just killed your partner," Kyle said curiously. "Igu and the others are not my companions, and for the sake of life and death, I can give up everything." As Yi was speaking, the guards outside the alley had already arrived at the entrance with guns. She couldn't help but become anxious. "Hurry up and make a decision. If you delay any longer, we will all be finished together." "I don't care," Kyle nodded. Even though he was surrounded by alien forces, he still had the means to escape easily, so he did not act impatient. What prompted him to stay was the identity of the female alien in front of him. Kyle's eyes fell on Yi. Nearly 100 ability cards glowed brightly. Among them, the one that caught his attention and made his heart tremble was a dark purple ability card. Proxima Midnight Elf Gene, the racial gene of the hybrid elf. Rare purple ability card, semi-sealed. A hybrid of light elves and dark elves. It possesses the natural lifespan of thousands of years of an ordinary elf, as well as a strong vitality. Inheriting the blood and magic power from both parents, light and darkness will interfere with each other, making it difficult to control and use. Current status: the talent ability is semi-sealed, unstable, and cannot be extracted. A rare purple physical ability card. Kyle clenched his fists quietly, and his heart was unsettled. This was the first time he saw a rare purple ability card. If you can draw this kind of high-level physical ability card, you can strengthen your physical constitution that has already reached a bottleneck, and there is a high probability that you can solve the genetic disease problem. Although the Proxima Midnight Elf's talent ability was unstable and could not be extracted, he was still very excited. Ignoring the time jumps on the way to the wormhole, this is only the first day of arriving at Sakaar, and we have encountered members of a higher race that could be used for long-term observation. Speaking of which, the Light Elves should be in the upper realm where Asgard is. How come they are secretly dealing with the Dark Elves in the lower realm? Kyle secretly complained, looking at Yi wrapped in a cloak, and made a decision in his heart. I can help her escape from here while ensuring her own safety. Yi didn't know that Kyle had thought so much. When she heard that he was willing to cooperate, she took a deep breath and said, "It's decided then. I will cast a spell as a signal to attract the guard's attention. You take the opportunity to break out and then—" "No need," Kyle interrupted her, looked at the armed guards rushing in, and said, "There will be a big riot later. You can take the opportunity to leave." After he finished speaking, under Yi shocked gaze, he suddenly sped up and forced his way out. In half a second, Kyle rushed out of the narrow alley, stepped on the face of a guard, and jumped high with the force. "Stop him." Kyle's crazy behavior undoubtedly angered the chief guard on the spacecraft, who gave an order through the communicator. Dozens of armed guards on the street aimed at Kyle and pulled the trigger at the same time. Dozens of lasers were fired at Kyle, who was about to land. Kyle raised his lips, bent his feet slightly to accumulate strength, and then stomped heavily on the air below his feet. Air dash! The energy tide erupted under Kyle's feet. Under the sudden acceleration, his body disappeared from the spot, leaving behind a series of white wave circles and afterimages. It swept across a distance of 20 to 30 meters and landed on the wall of a building. When Kyle stood upside down on the outer wall of the building, the lasers finally collided and exploded on the spot, emitting dazzling light. "Please chase me." As if in provocation, Kyle raised his middle finger towards a spaceship in the sky. Then, without looking back, he sprinted and climbed away from the building area. "What kind of creature is this?" The guards and the pilot were all stunned. "What are you still standing there for? Chase them all! Chase them all!" The guard chief's exasperated words roared out from the communicator and the spaceship broadcast. Nearly 10 suspended spaceships immediately accelerated, spraying blue flames from their tails, and began to chase Kyle's figure in the distance. "Who on earth is that guy?" Yi, who was still in the alley, was also confused, but when she saw the spaceships chasing Kyle, she realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to escape, and hurriedly cast a dark spell. Her body was wrapped in a black mist and gradually disappeared. Chapter 166, Saka Black Market After a Night. The sky of Sakaar, which was dotted with small teleportation wormholes, began to light up in the morning. In the markets and streets of the main city, various alien residents gradually became active, but it seemed that because of some accidents last night, none of them slept well, and they kept discussing related topics. In the inner city of the main city, in a room on the 5th floor of the Xinghong Hotel. Mr. Kyle, it's time to get up." At dawn, Bo knocked on Kyle's master bedroom door, his claws scraping against the metal door panel so sharply that it made an ear-piercing sound. The smart door slowly opened. Kyle, who was wearing plain pajamas, was bleary-eyed. His tall body blocked the doorway. He yawned and asked, "What are you making a fuss about so early in the morning?" "Mr. Kyle, did you really fall asleep last night? Didn't you notice anything unusual outside?" Bo looked at Kyle in disbelief. He had dark circles under his eyes and looked listless. Even the texture of his white fur had deteriorated a lot. "Last night," Kyle's eyes flickered with strange waves when he heard it, and he lied. "I went back to my room and took a shower and fell asleep quickly. I guess it was the jet lag from crossing the interstellar space. I slept soundly." "What happened?" "Well, I guess you're the only one in the city who fell asleep." Bo spread his hands helplessly and said seriously, "Late last night, someone was causing trouble in the main city of Saka. The city's supervisory guards went crazy, flying their spaceships all over the streets, saying they were catching criminals. It's fine to catch the criminal, but they chased him from the outer city to the inner city, from the south gate of the main city to the north gate of the main city. It took us half the night." Bo sighed, looking at his back pitifully, wagging his tail from side to side. They simply didn't let me sleep. My fur has lost its luster. Has the criminal been caught? Kyle asked with some interest. No. If he was caught, would the supervising guards issue wanted warrants for the criminal all over the city so early in the morning? Bo said, reaching into the small backpack behind him and pulling out a wanted warrant with a photo. Kyle took the wanted poster and read it. The photo was set in the alley with blood and the corpse of the big-eyed monster last night. The protagonist was him wearing a Black Panther helmet and combat uniform, and the Proxima Midnight Elf was covered with a veil and cloak with only a glimpse of her slender figure. The top criminal is the one wearing the beast mask, and the wanted amount is as high as 1 million. The wanted amount for the woman next to her is only 100,000, which is equivalent to an additional amount. Bo had a complicated expression, staring at Kyle, as if trying to read something from his face. He said with both joy and doubt, "The big-eyed monster that fought against us last night has been killed, and 2 of our companions were seriously injured. I heard they were sent to the duel arena after being treated." Isn't this good? Kyle smiled inexplicably, handed the wanted order back to Bo, and said without letting anyone refuse, "I'll change my clothes and take me to visit the main city of Sokka later. I am happy to serve you." Bo obeyed, lowered his head, bowed, and raised his hand, performing a standard salute like a gentleman. I don't know where this ruthless guy from the starry sky came from. He's so vicious. Bo thought to himself, patting his chest and letting out a long breath. Anyone with a little bit of intelligence would understand how such a coincidence could happen. After the room was closed, Kyle turned back and his eyes fell on the combat uniform and Black Panther helmet hanging on the hanger. Those guard spaceships last night were too difficult to deal with. They had infrared and sonic detection locking functions. He led the guards around the city for several circles and finally used the stealth skill and the built-in teleportation to escape half a mile away. And only then was he able to completely get rid of them. Without Venom, many actions were not as convenient as before. Otherwise, simple camouflage and stealth could easily shake off the pursuit of the guarding spacecraft. Venom, Kyle muttered softly. He had lived with Venom for a long time and was used to its presence. Now that they were separated, he felt a little uncomfortable. Kyle and Bo put on their travel hooded wallets and jeans and went out together. Bo acted as a tour guide. After seeing Kyle's strength and financial resources, he seemed to want to curry favor with him and answered all of Kyle's questions. After finishing the delicious meal in the inner city, Bo took Kyle to the market at the junction of the inner city and the outer city. Don't miss it if you pass by. From high-tech products of advanced civilization to genetic serums of ancient gods, we have everything. For only $9.98, you can take home a Star Core Energy Crystal Gem. This artifact has been identified by an elite scavenger boss and is on sale at a huge discount. You'll make a profit if you buy it. The Main Street Market, amid the mountains of garbage, was bustling with activity. Dozens of private stalls of varying sizes were lined up as far as the eye could see. Extraordinarily well-dressed alien residents and ragged scavengers mingled together, strolling around and checking out the merchandise with great interest. Bo introduced to Kyle Sakaar as the central garbage dump of the entire universe. The most important thing is its resources. This can be said to be the largest black market for sundries in the universe, and people come here every day to shop. Isn't this the same as the exchange office? Kyle asked in surprise. Of course it's different. The exchange office is run by a master. It's reliable, but they will deduct a handling fee. And for some items that are not in the known database and cannot be identified, they will generally give a low price. Bo smiled and said, "This is the charm of the black market. You may find priceless treasures at a low price here, or you are more likely to find a bunch of useless alien garbage." Kyle suddenly realized that this was a bit like the gambling stone and antique market on Earth. However, although the two are of the same nature, the items sold in the Sokka black market are all unknown items from all over the universe. It is said that to shop in the black market, you need good eyesight and knowledge. But in reality, who has all the knowledge in the universe? Even the elders of the universe cannot say that they can identify most of the items in the black market. Therefore, people who come here just want to try their luck. At this point, Bo kindly reminded Kyle, Most of the vendors are scavengers. They all want to make a fortune, and they brag about their products. Just look at them. It's best not to buy. Kyle nodded. It would be good to see the strange objects from all over the universe and broaden his horizons. Following the crowded and bustling flow of people, Kyle and Bo approached the first street stall. The stall was simply a thick black cloth spread on the ground, with a dozen or so strange and bizarre goods of various sizes placed on it. The stall owner was a short old man with bare arms. "Hey, isn't this Bo?" The old stall owner greeted him warmly, holding up a black, glowing bone fragment. "Did you bring a customer? Let me introduce you to a new product, the crystallization of the ancient race's intracranial memory. Since we're old acquaintances, it's only 1,000. Get out of here. Don't use that alien garbage to trick me." Bo cursed angrily. Kyle's face was calm as he walked within 3 meters. Looking at the various goods on the stalls, his mind subconsciously focused. The next moment, something unexpected happened to him. Chapter 167 Taba Search for magical tools in Kyle's field of vision. Related item card information began to appear on the strange commodities on the stalls. Broken bones of Hyla Beast. The remains of Hyla Beast's ribs. White item card. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the remains of the ribs of the Black Beast, an indigenous life form that survived on planet 020 in the X galaxy, began to glow black due to eating dark plants. Current status. Items for sale by others cannot be drawn. This is the product information in the hands of the old stall owner, who claims to be the remains of an ancient race. There's more. Kyle looked down. Dragon frog mucus, star crusher ingot, Tauren feces, hut crafts. Within a 3-meter radius, the area covered by the mind, the color level and detailed information of the product cards are clearly visible. Kyle was stunned. It turns out that there are more than just ownerless things. As long as the items are still owned and sold as commodities, you can actually see the relevant card information, but you just can't draw them. Kyle squinted his eyes, calmed down, pointed at 2 pieces of black or on the stall, and asked casually, "What is this?" When the old stall owner heard the question, he quickly put down the broken bones of the black beast he was selling, looked at Kyle with admiration, and said excitedly, "This customer, you have a good eye. You even spotted the most potentially valuable product here." Kyle was slightly startled, but the next sentence from the old stall owner made him feel that his worries were a bit unnecessary. "This is the black stone that was originally formed during the Big Bang. It contains mysterious energy and is extremely hard. Even if it is placed in a furnace at 3,000 degrees, it cannot melt." "Bullshit. Just 2 broken stones from an unknown star region." Bo complained harshly. The old stall owner touched his nose awkwardly and said expectantly, "If you want to buy them, 2 pieces will cost you 5,000. 5,000? This broken stone?" Before Bo could finish his words, Kyle beside him nodded and said firmly, "I'll buy it." The expression on Bo's face suddenly froze. The old stall owner hesitated for half a second, then quickly packed up the 2 stones and said with a big smile, "Deal, Mr. Kyle. You're not really going to buy this thing, are you?" Bo opened his mouth wide and looked at Kyle in disbelief. Kyle nodded, snapped his fingers, and confirmed, "Give me the money. Take your stuff and leave." Bo wanted to say something, but stopped himself. Finally, he sighed helplessly, picked up the packaged goods, and paid with cash himself. "Goodbye, welcome back next time." The old stall owner's voice with laughter came from behind. Bo quickly followed Kyle with his things in his hand and said in a depressed tone, "Mr. Kyle, why did you buy 2 broken stones?" "I like it." Kyle shrugged, almost laughing out loud with joy in his heart. The stall owner, the seller, Bo, and even everyone else thought he had lost money. In fact, he was the only one who knew how much benefit he had gained for nothing. Star broken ingot, an extremely rare metal mineral. Rare blue item card. A metal or formed by a mutation in the core of a planet in an unknown area. It is hard and difficult to destroy, can be used to forge weapons and tools, and has the characteristics of a sharp star. Sharp star absorbs the dark matter energy of the universe and emits a strike as brilliant as a meteor. The metal or alone has reached the rare blue grade. which is one level higher than vibranium metal. How powerful would the equipment made from it be? Unfortunately, these two small pieces can't even be used to forge a dagger. Kyle felt a little regretful, but soon he burst into laughter. After all, he bought it at a very low price. People can't be too greedy. The card drawing system can identify all product information. For me, this Saka black market is a shopping paradise. Kyle looked at the alien stalls in front of him, as if he was looking at a treasure trove waiting for him to open. Everyone is blind, but he has his eyes open and can pick out gold from the vast sand at a glance. Next, Kyle entered into a shopping frenzy, stopping at every street stall, ignoring the stall owner's sales pitch and by Bo's persuasion, as if he was just following his own heart and buying whatever he liked. After a while, after shopping at most of the stalls, Bo's small body was almost crushed by the goods he bought. Looking at his gradually thinning wallet, he followed Kyle with a resentful look on his face. Kyle had a blank expression on his face, but he didn't stop walking and showed signs of continuing to walk. At this time, the stall owners and residents strolling around the black market also knew that a wealthy man had come, the kind of person who was stupid and rich. The looks they gave Kyle and Bo were filled with an indescribable strangeness that could only be felt physically. "Mr. Kyle, it's almost time for today. The 70,000 cash I have on me is almost gone." Bo had a sad face, his hands full of simple packaging bags, and his backpack was about to burst with goods. In the eyes of others, these are all useless alien garbage. Spending thousands or tens of thousands to buy garbage with connotation means that one is either stupid or has a lot of money. Kyle hesitated, then said, "Well, let's go to one last store." "That's what you said." Bo breathed a sigh of relief. Since it was the last one, Kyle looked around and saw that there was no one at the stall, so he quickly walked forward. As soon as he approached within 3 meters, his mind moved slightly, and related card information appeared before his eyes. Almost instantly, Kyle's pupils contracted and he stared at an object, unable to move his eyes away even a little bit. At this moment, even his strong and resilient mind was shaken. Kyle pretended to be calm, squatted down, and stared at him with a burning gaze from a close distance. The product is very large, similar to huge amounts of axes, with the axe blades on both sides completely broken off, leaving only a 1-meter-long axe handle carved with ancient patterns and half of the tip of the axe. This broken axe was of a simple dark gold color, stained with spots of coagulated golden blood. "Kid, you put this item up here without even wiping off the blood stains. Did you pick it up from a pile of dead men?" Bo yelled in dissatisfaction. The stall owner was indeed a skinny pink alien kid. He said timidly, "I wiped it off, but the blood can't be wiped clean. My sister said it was the blood of the gods." "The God Clan." Bo sneered. "Everyone knows that the Celestials are ancient life forms in the universe, even more ancient than the elders of the universe. They have many forms, such as humans, beasts, a planet, and even thoughts of nothingness. Therefore, as long as you have connections with the gods, your status will be greatly improved." "How much is this?" Kyle asked calmly. The pink kid held up a finger and gritted his teeth and said, "My sister said the minimum is 1 million. 1 million? Bo was stunned and couldn't help laughing. "I finally understand why no one comes to your place. 1 million? Are you going to steal it?" "Okay, I'll buy it," Kyle said in a deep voice without any hesitation. Not to mention 1 million. Even if it was 10 million or 30 million, he would buy it without hesitation. This broken axe is a real artifact. Chapter 168. God's Weapons. 1 million Saka coins. This is basically a sky-high price in the black market. It is enough to buy a safe house in any location in Saka City under huge amounts of competition for resources. And the goods being bought and sold are unknown and broken axes. Fortunately, the place where the child stall was located was empty. Otherwise, if the news of this transaction had been spread at this time, it would probably have caused a sensation among people in the black market. "Mr. Kyle, 1 million Saka coins. You want to use them to buy this broken axe? Think about it carefully. You can't spend money like this." Bo moved closer to Kyle and persuaded him in a low voice. It originally thought that Kyle was just interested and bought some novelties on the black market as decorations, but it didn't expect that he would be willing to pay such a high price for a broken axe. Kyle, ignored by Bo, squatted down, placed his right palm on the broken large axe handle, and gently stroked the strange and colorful patterns on the surface. The hard and cold touch was clearly transmitted to his hand. Not only that, there is also the primitive charm that comes from battles, fights, and the intersection of iron and blood. Kyle closed his eyes, ignored the noise of the black market, and immersed himself in the experience with his heart and mind. He seemed to see a brutal war on an ancient battlefield in the starry sky, where extraordinary beings were fighting, and even the gods in mythology could die on the spot if they were not careful. That was a game of chess and struggle between the higher races for the dominance of this piece of cosmic starry sky. Both the scale of the alien race's military forces and the individual strength and weapons and equipment of each other far exceeded any battle on Earth during World War II. "Where did you get this axe?" Kyle opened his eyes and asked in a deep voice, with a gleam in his eyes, as if he had thought of something. "I picked it up from a wild garbage river half a year ago. My sister and I rented a medium-sized fishing spaceship just to bring it back to the inner city," the alien child said, as if he was afraid that Kyle would suddenly regret the deal, and asked quickly, "Do you really want to buy it?" "Of course, but I don't have that much cash on me. All the money is in the trading card," Kyle answered firmly. "I'll notify my sister now, and she'll bring the card payment device." "Please wait a moment." The alien child was so excited that he hurriedly took out the communicator and sent an urgent message. Seeing that the deal was a done deal, Bo drooped his ears and tail and stopped trying to persuade him. After all, Kyle paid the money, so he can use it however he wants. 1 million. Bo just felt distressed and secretly sighed at how much garbage he would have to pick up to get it back. About 5 minutes later, Kyle, who was waiting in front of the stall, looked up and saw a small Quinjet flying out from the inner city with brilliant lights, approaching this side, and finally hovering in the air 10 meters above his head. The child waved at the floating Quinjet and said with a smile, "My sister is here." The door of the spacecraft opened quickly, and a pink-skinned woman in a work uniform came down the elevator stairs with nimble hands and feet. The alien child was about to approach and talk to him, but the woman grabbed his ear and said in a dissatisfied tone, "Don't you know your sister is at work? You even used the emergency communication to call her. Explain it to me. If the answer is not satisfactory to me, I will not have any food tonight." "Wow, stop it. Sister, there is an important customer here." The alien child begged for mercy and pain. The alien woman looked forward, and when she saw Kyle in front of the stall, her face was suddenly extremely surprised. She hesitated for a moment, quickly let go of her hand, and greeted politely, "Mr. Kyle, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here." "What a coincidence." Kyle nodded. The alien woman in front of him was the receptionist, named Lee, whom he met in the exchange agency last night. "That's right. Both the sister and the brother are pink-skinned aliens. There's nothing wrong with that." "Sister, this customer wants to buy that axe." The alien child whispered. "What?" Lee suspected that she had heard it wrong. She took a deep breath, nervously grabbed the child's arm, and asked seriously, "What price did you offer? Did you miss a few zeros?" Before the kid could answer, Kyle smiled and urged him, "It's already been agreed. 1 million Saka coins. If you bring a payment device, you can just swipe the card." The card payment machine made a beeping sound, indicating that the 1 million had been transferred successfully. The surprise came too suddenly. Henry was still in a state of dream. She pinched the alien child next to her, as if to verify whether she was dreaming. "Now that the money has been paid, I'll take my things and leave." Kyle smiled faintly. For him, money and wealth are external things. As long as it can enhance his own strength, any amount of effort is worth it. "Of course, go ahead." Lee nodded quickly. Kyle grabbed the axe handle with his right hand and tried to pick up the axe, but no matter how hard he tried, the broken axe lying on the ground didn't move at all. Kyle's expression changed slightly. The weight of the broken axe was far beyond his imagination. "You know, he has 10 times the strength of a human. He has tons of strength in one hand and can easily lift a 2-meter-wide stone. Oh, Mr. Kyle, I forgot to tell you. This axe is extremely heavy. Even the stone man who is famous for his brute strength can't move it. We need to use a transport spacecraft to carry it. Enlise said apologetically. What kind of perverted creature would use such a heavy axe? Bo said in surprise. Enlise said seriously. That's why I set such a high price, even if it can't be sold. Based on my years of experience, the previous owner of this axe might have been some higher life form who claimed to be a god. Taking a deep breath, Kyle grasped the axe handle with both hands again. Mr. Kyle, this axe is really hard to move. I can use the spaceship to transport it back for you. Seeing this, Enlise suggested, I'll give it a try. Kyle held the axe handle tightly, his face calm, his feet firmly on the ground, and the strong muscles of his tall body swelled, making the hood of his leather jacket bulge. Kyle exerted force with both hands, and the axe with only the handle left trembled slightly. Then, as Henry and the others stared in amazement, it was slowly lifted up. He had only raised it half a meter high when the axe handle slipped out of his hand and sank down, hitting the ground with a heavy crack. Dust billowed up and the concrete floor underneath collapsed, leaving an axe-shaped dent. This is too horrible. Bo was secretly shocked, his hair standing on end with fear. Is this thing really a weapon? The most horrified person on the field was Enlise. She knew very well that the exact weight of the axe was a terrifying number. The other party was able to lift it slightly, which shows that they are a humanoid race with great strength. Please use the spaceship to transport it for me. Kyle was a little helpless. He felt that what he was holding was not a broken axe, but a star meteorite. Chapter 169. The Aesir Henry used the spaceship to transport the broken axe to Kyle's hotel, and then left to return to the exchange center. Various miscellaneous items purchased from the black market were placed cluttered on the table in the room, from which it can be seen that the owner has no intention of taking care of it. Kyle sat alone on the bed, holding an item card that glowed with a rich purple light between his two fingers, his eyes revealing complicated meanings, and he fell into a long period of contemplation. Unknown battle axe, an unknown one-handed battle axe that has been severely damaged. Rare purple ability card. The axe tip is made of divine metal ulu and the core of a planet that is about to decline, and the handle is made of wood from the world tree. It is a one-handed battle axe forged with the exquisite craftsmanship of the dwarf clan. The original battle axe can be summoned from the master, with the energy of the user superimposed, and the explosive slash guided out is enough to split mountains and the earth. It is now severely damaged and has lost all its original functions. Long stained by the blood of ancient monsters and gods in the universe, it carries a strong aura of intimidation to lower creatures and an indelible hostility that can easily affect the user's mind. This is the detail of the broken axe and the main reason why Kyle is so fascinated. It is in a severely damaged state, but the rare and precious materials that are hard to come by are enough to maintain the rare purple item grade. This one-handed battle axe, before it was damaged, was undoubtedly a divine weapon that surpassed the purple category and entered the orange grade. Certainly, just finding a broken artifact was not enough to make Kyle think for so long. The key point was the information brought by the broken axe. Divine metal, world tree, dwarf forging. The forging materials and craftsmanship of this axe are so similar to Thor's hammer. It's as if they were forged at the same time. Kyle thought to himself, there are too many similarities between the broken axe and Thor's hammer. Even some of their functions are the same. If you say that this broken axe is not from the realm of God, he will not believe it even if you kill him. God's domain, Asgard. Kyle whispered, staring at the broken axe item card, his eyes filled with longing and yearning. Initially, when he decided to leave the Earth and head for the galaxy, the first thing that came to his mind was Asgard, the divine palace where the Aesir lived. The Aesir, the top advanced race that now rules the universe. Their lifespan is as long as thousands or tens of thousands of years, which was once described in the Norse mythology of the Earth. The Rainbow Bridge can freely cross various parts of the universe and can carry artifacts to go to heaven and earth. Their appearance is undoubtedly different from that of humans, but their physical qualities are dozens of times better than those of humans, and they have extraordinary abilities that are like the laws of thunder, death, etc., depending on their body. They are truly a clan of gods. Different from the Celestials who were the first to be born in the universe, in Kyle's judgment, The Aesir should be the most perfectly evolved and intelligent race in the Marvel Universe. It should also be one of the ultimate evolutionary directions of human beings on Earth. Compared to the Proxima Midnight Elf, Kale wants to get the Aesir's physical ability card more. Ability cards that affect physical fitness need to be selected carefully. So far, Kyle only has 2 physical ability cards, Self-Healing Factor and Super Soldier. This type of ability card does not focus on the number, but on the compatibility between genes. For example, the Big Eyes monster's alien physical ability card is of blue grade, so Kyle can naturally draw it. But once the extraction is done, while he gains the racial talent ability of the big-eyed monsters, his body's genetic structure will also be transformed to become part of the big-eyed monster race. His eyes may become bigger, and his skin will turn into a bluish-brown color similar to that of the big-eyed monsters. The Aesir, judging from their appearance and abilities, are simply the deified version of humans. They should be the most suitable physical ability card to integrate with Super Soldier at present. Kyle clenched his fists and muttered to himself. When he knew he had arrived at Sakaar, Kyle had reluctantly given up on obtaining the Thor clan's ability card and planned to play it safe by finding another suitable race to replace it more than 5 months ago. Until now, the broken axe he found on the black market has rekindled his hope. He can use a one-handed battle axe made from the same family as Thor's hammer and use it to fight ancient monsters and gods. The owner of this axe must also be a member of the Aesir. Kyle's heart trembled slightly, and he was excited for no reason and thought, half a year ago, this broken axe fell here. Is it possible that the god who owned the axe is not dead and is still alive on this planet? Although it was just a hypothesis, it was enough to make Kyle willing to give everything to explore and investigate. If you succeed and steal the ability card of the Aesir, then Superman will become a god in every sense of the word, on par with the gods. Before Kyle could come out of his thoughts, there was a sudden sound of dynamic music outside the hotel window. Huge amounts of sound waves formed substantial waves, hitting his eardrums. What's going on? Frowning slightly, Kyle put the item card back into the card space, sat up from the bed, and walked to the window. Outside the window, in the middle of the main city of Sokka, the tall and majestic central building panel. Under the holographic projection technology, the light transforms into a 100-meter-high projection of the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster also looks very similar to a human and appears to be a white-haired uncle. He was wearing an elegant dress, and he spread his hands calmly and gently, looking down at the entire main city of Sokka. Loudspeakers on the streets broadcast his words, "Dear residents of Sakaar, today is the warm-up for the championship duel. Welcome to the duel arena and watch with me the most bloody, brutal, and passionate life and death duel." As soon as the words fell, passionate music resounded in every corner of the main city of Sokka. At the same time, the aliens of all kinds on the streets were cheering and welcoming the important holidays, and they were swarming towards the duel arena behind the central building. Kyle opened the door, and by Bo in the hall was eager to move, jumping and running to his front. "Mr. Kyle, the duel match on planet Sokka has begun," Bai Bo shouted, and the beast's face was also very excited. Its squirrel-like white tail kept shaking as it explained, "This is a grand project organized by the Grandmaster himself. The Grandmaster likes to collect strong people from all over the universe, put them together, and force them to fight a one-on-one life-and-death duel. Only the winner can be free. This is the most popular project for the residents of this planet, collecting powerful people in the starry sky. Let's go and take a look." Kyle nodded as it wished and became interested in the duel arena. He had a hunch that maybe in this duel arena there might be information about the owner of the broken axe that he wanted to find out. In the future, even the Hulk and Thor have experienced the duel championship, so nothing is impossible. Chapter 170 Sokka Duel Tournament. The warm-up match for the championship match is about to begin. It was like the arrival of a grand celebration of a major festival. Almost all the alien creatures on the planet Sokka became agitated. No matter they were residents of the inner city or scavengers from the outer city, they all put down their work without hesitation and had no intention of missing even a warm-up duel. They looked fanatical, whistled, and held up signs for their favorite champions. Some fanatics even painted their faces and clothes the same skin color as the players. They gathered in groups on the main streets of the city and swarmed towards the duel venue in a mighty procession. Dozens of guard spaceships were distributed at regular intervals in the sky above the main city of Saka, with the Saka Central Building as the center, forming a network covering a 1-kilometer area of the sky, firmly occupying air supremacy and using light beams and broadcasts to guide the crowd below to enter. As soon as Kyle and Bo walked out of the hotel, they merged directly into the crowded crowd on the main street. There were strange-looking aliens in front, behind, and on both sides of them, and the sound of carnival tightly surrounded and hit them. Being among the alien crowd, Kyle couldn't help but be infected by the lively atmosphere. The alien creatures are obviously genuinely obsessed with and looking forward to the upcoming championship duel, and their enthusiasm is no less than that of the loyal World Cup fans on Earth. As long as there are competitions in the duel arena, this planet Saka built on garbage will be ignited and show vitality and vigor. By both sides, the local alien inhabitants seem to be using this opportunity to release their primitive nature of pursuing strength and killing, and at the same time to eliminate the boredom of being trapped on the planet that was like a prison. Kyle nodded in understanding. It is not just a way to kill time, but to evolve and become stronger, which is the common goal of all life in the universe. On this planet, there are lost alien creatures from all over the universe. Putting them together to perform a life and death duel to see who is stronger is something that all creatures love to see. The duel arena is located behind the central building. It is a giant interstellar gymnasium with a flat cylindrical structure. Its radius, including the steel outer wall, is 500 meters. The middle is open air and radiates bright lights to the surroundings and the sky. At this moment, looking down from the sky, one can see that all the biological inhabitants of the entire planet are like densely packed ants, pouring into the duel arena from all directions like returning to their nests. Afraid of being stepped on in the crowd, the short Bo grabbed Kyle's shoulders and hung in the air like a bag. It looked at the huge stadium and said with emotion, "The Star Duel Stadium can accommodate 200,000 spectators at a time. In half an hour, it will accommodate more than 80% of the biological residents of this planet." Kyle smacked his lips in surprise when he heard this horrifying statistic. It is estimated that only on Sakar, this morbid and lost place, can there be such an unprecedented viewing experience that drives the local residents to the extreme fanaticism. Arriving at the entrance of the venue, Kyle was surprised to find that the tickets were divided into different grades, priced according to the area of nearness, distance, height, and depth. The seats in the back row cost 500 Saka coins. Bo, who usually values money more than anything else, was generous this time and bought tickets worth 1,000 yuan for him to enter the venue. Perhaps this is the charm of the championship duel. Kyle shook his head, seeing that many scavengers who were dressed in rags and couldn't even afford to stay in houses or hotels were more enthusiastic than anyone else in paying for tickets for the duel. For the creatures on this planet, duel tickets are probably a necessity of life, which allows them to feel the meaning of being alive. After passing the alien security check, Kyle and Bo took their seats according to their tickets. Their seats were located on the second floor, near the front row of the venue. Looking down, they had a good view of the entire circular and spacious dueling arena. In Bo's words, the viewing experience in the area from the 3rd to the 10th floor at the back is poor, and the area on the first floor in the front can sometimes be dangerous, so the second floor is the best viewing area. Kyle sat in his seat and looked around. Most of the seats in the inner area of the Star Stadium were already filled with alien spectators. Before the game officially started, the audience cheered passionately, their eyes fixed on the concrete playing field below. This is just a qualifying warm-up match. How exaggerated would it be if it were the championship match? What kind of talents and abilities would the challengers have? Kyle clenched his fists lightly, his heart beating rapidly and powerfully as if infected by the atmosphere. So far, he has not conducted any specific research on alien races, and the big-eyed monster he killed was just a scumbag with a combat power of level 5. With his current physical condition, the most perfect ideal super soldier on Earth, including hundreds of combat skills on Earth, Where can his combat power be ranked in the starry sky? Kyle was very anxious. He could use the duel match on the planet Sokka to understand the general combat power level of various places in the universe. After knowing both himself and the enemy, he would have a better idea in his mind. Before he could think too much, with a burst of loud exclamations from the audience, more than a dozen miniature flying devices flashed into the venue, projecting lights over the sky above the duel venue, forming a full-body projection of the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster's projection looked around and said with an approachable smile, "Dear audience, the wonderful performance is about to begin. Are you all happy?" In response, the entire Interstellar Stadium gave him a deafening cheer. "I am your host. Please give your applause to the challengers who are about to die in the warm-up match. Their spirit and passion deserve praise." The Grandmaster smiled and spread his hands and said, "I hope that everyone will find today's trip as worthwhile as I did." Grandmaster, Kyle's eyes moved slightly, and he looked up to the highest point of the stadium, where there was a special viewing platform with floor-to-ceiling glass windows. The Grandmaster himself and his trusted guards should be there. Without further ado, I declare the competition officially open. Now, please invite all the challengers of the qualifying round to enter. After the Grandmaster finished speaking, the projection waved his hand downwards, and the steel gates on the four sides of the duel arena slowly opened. Amid the excited cheers of the crowd, countless shadows moved inside the four gates, and various challenger creatures quickly rushed out from them. Some of them were wearing armor and holding weapons, while others were empty-handed, revealing their beastly and savage bodies, and they stepped into the duel arena with roars and growls. "Is this warm-up match a group battle?" Kyle asked with a little surprise. Bone nodded and replied, "That's right. After all, in the warm-up round, the strength of the challengers varies greatly, and a one-on-one match is too time-consuming. So most of them will be eliminated in a group fight first." It paused and said excitedly, "The last four challengers standing on the field will enter the second half of the competition and compete one-on-one to select the strongest challenger of this session. Then the champion who has dominated here for a long time will come out to defend the ring." Chapter 171. Brutal Duel. The champion who has dominated the Sokka duel arena for a long time? Kyle was slightly stunned, as if he had received crucial information from Bo. But before he could delve into it, the alien crowd around him started shouting fiercely, their faces twisted and ugly with excitement, exuding the hostility that had been pent up for a long time. "Kill. Fight quickly. Eliminate. Eliminate. If you want to live, kill other creatures." Under the collective urging of hundreds of thousands of alien people. In the duel arena, the number of challengers released from the underground prison has increased to nearly 100. They came to the duel arena where the lights were focused without saying too much and were on guard against the other challengers around them with murderous intent. Only the last four challengers standing will be able to survive, and in the life and death duel, elimination means death. This is the rule set by the Grandmaster, and it is also the supreme law of the planet Sokka. In the duel arena, a human-shaped challenger was the first to scream, but he was attacked fiercely from behind by a giant two-headed snake. The two-headed snake's upper body stood straight with its two heads erect. One mouth bit his head, and the other mouth bit his struggling feet, helping to stuff the food into its mouth and swallowing the living prey. In less than 3 seconds, the humanoid challenger had completely lost his voice and trace, and was swallowed into the snake's belly along with his armor. The giant two-headed snake spit out bloody core, and its silver vertical pupils stared coldly at the other challengers. Its tail slapped the floor with a sizzling sound, which made people's scalps numb. This horrifying scene of eating alive ignited the cheers of the audience, and also made the chaotic fight on the duel field completely imminent. "Mr. Kyle, look!" Bo raised his paw as if he had discovered something by accident and pointed happily to a corner of the duel arena. Kyle followed its instructions and looked at the edge of the fierce fighting field. A big-eyed green monster was trembling and crawling on the ground, wearing a full set of steel armor. Isn't that the big-eyed monster leader who was seriously injured by him last night? Many challengers are actually slaves and criminals captured by the Grandmaster. If they want to gain their freedom, they can only fight to the end in the duel arena and defeat the last defending champion. Bai Bo smiled and narrowed his eyes meaningfully, saying, "It is absolutely impossible to hide and survive until the end without fighting." Not long after Bai Bo finished speaking, a 2-meter-tall brown stone man ran by, holding a mace full of steel nails, and smashed it hard on the big-eyed monster leader on the ground. After the attack, the stone man didn't even look at it, but just left with the blood-stained mace and rushed into the battle again. On the ground, the big-eyed monster leader turned into a ball of meat paste. His armor completely deformed and sank into the ground, and disgusting green blood continued to overflow. "Great!" Bai Bo chuckled. He had disliked the criminal gang that the big-eyed monster belonged to for a long time. Kyle also shook his head. According to the cruel rules of the duel arena, in this kind of group melee, the first ones to die are definitely the weak creatures who avoid fighting. Because there are only 4 spots left to survive, the strong challengers will definitely avoid each other consciously, picking the soft ones first and squeezing them continuously. After eliminating enough challengers, they will be safe. It's just like the principle of raising goo. The strong prey on the weak, the fittest survive, and the ones that survive are the strongest and most powerful fighting creatures. Kyle watched the battles and killings taking place in the arena. The fights between creatures of all races in the universe really opened his eyes to new things. It was far different from the experience of fighting beasts and insects on Earth. He saw a man with rough skin and muscles like stone, carrying a steel mace that was half the size of a car, swinging the mace with a force that easily reached several tons, and smashing a 4-meter-tall giant into bloody pulp. He saw a tall and thin man who looked like a praying mantis, with sickle-shaped hands. He was agile and flexible, and his speed reached supersonic speed. He chopped a stone man known for his strength and defense in half with a sudden slash of his hand knife. He also saw an alien child with flesh-colored tentacles all over his body and black and red eyes, who burst out with extraordinary self-healing ability. The tentacles stretched out and turned into sharp weapons, piercing the frogman and the big-eyed monster and beating them into a mummy. In 10 minutes, more than half of the hundreds of challengers had been eliminated. The eliminated creatures turned into corpses and debris lying across the field. Bloodstains of different colors, red, green, black, and purple, intertwined together, graffiti on the scarred floor of the duel field. At the same time, the chaotic battle became increasingly intense, and the cheers from the audience became louder and more intense. It's totally worth the money. The quality of the challengers this time is very high. Bai Bo sighed and waved his claws excitedly. Only the monster-like creatures in the universe can stand to the end in this duel arena. Kyle nodded in agreement, the light in his eyes flickering, and he felt a certain amount of pressure from it. The fighting level of the alien creatures in the duel field was far beyond his expectations. The challenger, immersed in the battle of survival and killing, had no chance of survival unless he fought with all his might and used the talents and abilities of his own race. Even if he has the power of a dominant force on Earth, if he were in the duel below, he would die on the spot if he was not careful. 15 minutes later, the duel field was littered with the corpses of alien creatures. Broken weapons and colorful blood were scattered all over the ground, creating a horrific scene like hell. Suddenly, the remaining less than 10 challengers stopped at the same time. After the fierce battles, no matter how strong they were all injured. They glanced at each other coldly and fell into a brief confrontation. "There are 8 more. The climax of this duel is coming," Bai Bo said, holding his breath. "That's right," Kyle agreed. The number of challengers on the field has been reduced to less than 10. At this time, the surviving creatures standing on the field are no longer weaklings that are easy to deal with. As long as they each find another opponent and eliminate him, that will be almost the end. Kyle's face was serious and solemn, and he looked at the different races of creatures on the duel field, memorizing the appearances and abilities of the different races. Their specialized attack methods, fatal weaknesses, unique and powerful attack methods, unexpectedly strong and durable defense techniques. These are all inhuman and are at the absolute monster level. Kyle believed that as long as he was in this universe, even if he returned to Earth, he would encounter them one day. Even though he possesses hundreds of combat skills, they're basically for use against humans. When facing these monster races in the universe and the stars, if he encounters them, he might not even know how to die if he uses ordinary combat concepts to deal with them. Chapter 172, Goodbye Venom. Under the bright lights of the spaceship and the interstellar venue, on the bloody and tragic duel arena, including the giant two-headed snake, the sickle man, the stone man, the tentacle child, etc., who had performed brilliantly in the battle before, 8 challenger creatures were confronting each other. The duel venue fell into a brief silence for a moment, forming a sharp contrast with the liveliness of the audience seats outside. The cheers of hundreds of thousands of alien spectators were so loud that the sound waves almost overturned the entire venue. Mr. Kyle, which 4 do you think will survive in the end? Bo rubbed his paws and asked, suppressing his excitement. Kyle shook his head slightly, narrowed his eyes slightly, and said in a deep voice, "It's hard to say. Up to now, there must be some people who have not shown their true strength. If we talk about who is more stable, the alien child with tentacles and the man with knife hands have a much greater chance of survival and can basically advance to the semifinals." Kyle made his judgment based on his own experience. "Really? Then I'll place my bet," Bo said, and hurriedly took out an electronic device similar to a touchscreen mobile phone. Kyle shrugged and focused on the duel arena. The man with sickles in both hands can easily cut steel armor in half with his sharp hand knives, and he has supersonic burst speed, terrifying physical attack, and movement speed. Even if he does not take the initiative to attack, chooses to avoid the battle, and keeps moving at high speed in the field for several circles, no one can touch him. As for the tentacle kid, judging from the melee just now, his strength, speed, fighting skills, and ability to withstand blows are all at the top level, comparable to a naked Captain America. Plus, the flesh-colored tentacles that can be used freely can attack and defend, and can also absorb the blood of others as nutrients for super-fast self-healing. Wait a minute! Kyle suddenly stood up from his seat and stared at the child with tentacles waving constantly in the field below. As if noticing his gaze, the tentacle child casually raised his head and glanced at the area where Kyle was sitting with his emotionless, dark, blood-red eyes, but quickly retracted his gaze and focused on the challengers around him. Despite the distance of nearly 100 meters, Kyle still felt a very familiar, yet strange feeling from the tentacle child. "Is it an illusion?" Kyle muttered to himself. "Hey, why are you standing up? Are you going to let people watch the game?" With their vision blocked by Kyle's sudden standing, the alien audience behind them shouted in dissatisfaction and wanted to step forward to argue. Kyle turned around, his eyes scanning behind him with cold eyes, a faint sense of oppression emanating outward. As if facing a brutal and powerful monster, the arrogant alien audience suddenly wilted and dared not look it in the eye. "Sorry, everyone." Bo quickly tried to smooth things over and pulled up Kyle's trouser leg. Kyle followed its meaning and sat back in his seat in silence. "Mr. Kyle, what's wrong with you?" Bo asked in surprise. "It's okay. Just continue watching the game." Kyle replied calmly, his flickering eyes drifting back to the duel arena. This time, his gaze was fixed on the tentacle child, without moving away at all. His heart was far from being as calm as it seemed. On the duel field, the remaining 8 challengers finally moved together, selected their opponents, and started the battle in 4 small areas on the field. The opponent chosen by the tentacle child was a stone man carrying a mace. I saw it sprinting and accelerating, kicking and bouncing, its small body hitting the stone man like a heavy artillery shell, and the dozen tentacles on its body fluttering like hair. "Kid, how dare you pick me as your opponent? Watch me beat you into a pulp." Seeing this, the stone man grinned angrily, holding huge amounts of maces in both hands, raised them up like playing baseball, and after accumulating strength, swung them forward suddenly. With the infusion of super strong wrist force, the huge and heavy mace actually created a whistling gale, which just blocked the tentacle child's rushing trajectory. The audience cried out in surprise, as if they had already seen the bloody scene of the tentacle child's petite body hitting the mace and exploding in the air. "It's time to show your true abilities," Kyle said to himself when he saw this. As if to confirm his words, under the shocked gazes of countless alien spectators. A pair of red wings suddenly stretched out from the tentacle child's back, and the wings tore open his shirt, flapping forward with a trembling flutter, causing his body to suddenly stop in the air. The stone man's face changed drastically, and the mace he swung missed the tip of the child's nose. He smashed it diagonally on the floor with too much force, making a dull sound and causing the concrete floor to crack and dent. Seizing this opportunity, several tentacles suddenly shot forward, and the long whip tightly wrapped around the stone man's neck. "Damn it!" The stone man roared, let go of the too heavy mace, grabbed the tentacles on his neck with one hand, and reached out with the other hand to grab the tentacle child. The tentacle child had an expressionless face, flapped his wings, and glided away from the stone arms. He flew to the back of the stone man's head, stretched out dark claws from both hands, and accurately pierced the opponent's eyes. 1/3 of the claws sank into the stone eye sockets, popping the eyeballs. With his fragile eyes injured, the stone man couldn't help but scream. In pain, he finally grabbed the tentacle child's wrists with sharp claws and held them in his hands with just one hand. The tentacle child struggled hard, but it was obviously in vain. In a pure contest of strength, the stone man was not inferior at all. "Once I catch you, don't even think about running away." The stone man closed his bleeding eyes, grabbed the tentacle child's hands with all his strength, lifted them up high, and used brute force to break several tough tentacles wrapped around his neck. "D!" The stone man roared and smashed the tentacle child in his hand to the ground. Gravel flew everywhere, and the already cracked floor collapsed again. As if he was worried, the stone man hit it twice more before loosening his hand. The tentacle child fell to the ground unconscious, motionless, with both wings broken, both arms almost dislocated and broken, and his body covered in blood and scars. "I am the winner." The stone man raised his hands. His eye sockets were empty, and tears and blood continued to flow. It was extremely tragic. The audience cheered loudly, but soon the cheers turned into exclamations. They looked in shock at the seriously injured tentacle child on the ground in front of the stone man. Two tentacles that had faded to black slowly rose up from his body and shot into the stone man's eye sockets while he was completely unprepared. The tentacles stirred rapidly inside, enough to turn the brain into mush. The stone man's body became stiff, his laughter stopped, and he fell backwards to the ground lifeless. This sudden reversal caused the audience to burst into loud applause. In the audience, only Kyle frowned deeply, feeling confused and uncertain. There is absolutely no mistake. The tentacle child has symbiotic venom attached to his body. Chapter 173, Final 4 Camouflage, Gliding, Claws, Whips, Tentacles. These extremely familiar abilities, without a doubt, reveal the identity of the tentacle child on the field. Kyle was pleasantly surprised. Venom, he actually appeared in the soccer duel arena, and he was symbiotically attached to an alien child. Originally thinking that there would be a long delay, he chose to gain a foothold on the planet Sokka first, and then slowly search for traces of the Venom later. Unexpectedly, Venom seemed to have arrived at Sakaar much earlier than him, and even ran to the duel arena. While he was surprised, Kyle also had more doubts. If it's Venom, why doesn't it have the same sense of connection as the creature card summoning creatures? And Venom, who was originally from the Lord, should have tried his best to find me. So why did he appear in the duel arena? Kyle thought about it, but for a moment, he couldn't come up with a reasonable answer. The creatures summoned by the creature cards will vaguely maintain a certain connection with the card owner, and their presence can still be felt even at a distance of half a world away on Earth. But at this time, Kyle was sitting in the audience about 100 meters away, but he had no sense of connection with the Venom in the field. If it weren't for the Tentacle Kid's excessive abilities and skills, which left strong traces of his usual fighting style, he wouldn't have been able to detect the opponent even if he passed by him. "Venom, how long before me did you arrive on this planet? And what happened?" Kyle frowned uneasily. This was beyond his control. In the duel arena, two black tentacles detached from the stone man's eye sockets, and as if they had absorbed enough nutrients, they fed them back to the alien child who was the host. The alien child's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After the repair was complete, he opened his eyes and stood up as if nothing had happened, standing on the edge of the battle, with an expressionless face. This feeling a puppet. Kyle quietly clenched his fists, slightly surprised. It is not just the induction of thoughts, but it treats the weak host organism as a body puppet, completely taking the initiative of the body and acting at will. When fighting in Japan and Tokyo on Earth, Venom had shown signs of this talent and ability, but he didn't care at the time. He believed that with his own strength, he was not afraid that Venom would betray him. Before the matter is clear, don't speculate too much. As long as there is a chance to come into contact with Venom again, everything will have an answer. Kyle let out a light breath, his brows relaxed, leaned back in his seat, and watched the battles of the other challengers. I hope things are not as bad as he guessed. Otherwise, Venom, it seems that he has not been trained enough. In the duel arena, after the Tentacle Kid finished killing the Stone Man, he stood at the side of the battlefield in his prime, and no one dared to provoke him. The other 3 small area showdowns also came to an end. The Sickle Man won cleanly, playing with a 6-eyed monster at supersonic speed and sharp hand knife. He was not in a hurry to chop off the opponent's head and kill him. Instead, he was like a wild beast, enjoying the thrill of hunting and fighting, forcing the enemy into hell little by little. The 6-eyed monster, known for its dynamic vision and 360-degree defense, did not touch the Sickle Man at all. It was spun around by the Sickle Man at high speed, leaving long wounds all over its body. Blood splattered everywhere until it died in despair and became a corpse. So strong. It's decided in the championship match. I will support Brother Dow. I hope he can make it to the end and shake the defending champion. Bo exclaimed in admiration. Kyle nodded. The alien creature, the Sickle Man, was a fighting race born for fighting and killing. Even at this moment, he had no way out if he encountered the situation and could only escape. With supersonic speed, it can arrive behind you in less than a second and decapitate you with a single swing of its knife. No matter how many fighting skills you have, they cannot withstand a supersonic blow. The other side, the giant 2-headed snake, was even more brutal and savage. It treated a semi-mechanized creature as a meal, strangled it with its waist as thick as a bucket, and swallowed it alive into its belly. After swallowing it completely, you could still see the mechanical creature wriggling violently in the 2-headed snake's belly. Half a minute later, it seemed to be digested and calmed down. At last, a strong minotaur with double horns fought a bloody battle with a werewolf and won the victory thanks to his rich combat experience. At this point, in the duel arena littered with corpses, only 4 challengers survived, namely the child with venom symbiosis, the Sickle Man, the giant 2-headed snake, and the Minotaur. The top 4 have been decided, which also marks the end of the warm-up trials. As more than a dozen micro-flying machines entered the venue, the Grandmaster was once again holographically projected above the venue. The Grandmaster rubbed his palms together and said with a smile, "Ladies and gentlemen, our dear top 4 contestants have come out. I wonder if you have seen enough. If you have, please give a round of applause to the winners and congratulate them for being able to live for another 3 days." Suddenly, there was a wave of applause and cheers from the audience. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen enough. In 3 days, our championship match will begin. At that time, these poor challengers will face an invincible creature, the Champion King who has dominated the duel arena for half a year. The Demon King. As soon as the Grandmaster finished speaking, most of the alien audience in the audience seats blushed and shouted enthusiastically, "Champion Demon King! Champion Demon King!" This scene is almost as famous as my reputation in New York on Earth. Kyle secretly complained and asked thoughtfully, "Who is the Champion Devil?" Bo took a deep breath and said solemnly, "It's the man codenamed Demon King. He has been in the duel arena for half a year. No matter who he meets, he always ruthlessly crushes the challenger with his terrifying strength. He is a symbol of power and bloodlust, and an invincible existence who has defeated all kinds of creatures in the universe." An invincible existence. Kyle frowned. This definition was too unstable and unreliable. However, he knew that the future Hulk had also served as the long-term champion here, and was basically invincible in the Starry Sky. The Starry Sky here is limited to the creatures lost on the planet Sakaar. Later, Thor, who fell into this place, was still half awake and barely defeated the Hulk. No matter what, creatures with the same strength as the Hulk and Thor can truly be called the strongest in the universe. Kyle sighed and was also full of expectations for the championship game 3 days later. Is the champion Demon King the original owner of the artifact Broken Axe? And Venom. Thinking of this, Kyle felt a little headache. How to actually come into contact with the Venom really required careful consideration. Then I declare that the duel warm-up match is over. Please come back to watch the championship match in 3 days. The Grandmaster laughed. The light dimmed, and the holographic projection quickly disappeared. Chapter 174 Sharanami and Anri, the challengers who advanced to the top 4, returned to the underground prison of the duel arena under the supervision of the guards. The alien audience began to leave their seats one after another, leaving the venue with a sense of unfulfilled desire. Kyle watched the tentacle child until its figure disappeared at the underground entrance of the duel arena, and then he came back to his senses. "Mr. Kyle, it's time for us to leave too." Bo pulled his clothes and called him. "Bo, is there any way for me to meet the challenger of the underground prison in the duel venue?" Kyle looked at Bo and asked casually, "Want to meet the challenger? I can't help you with that." Bo helplessly spread his hands and explained, "Calling them challengers is just a nice way of saying it. In fact, they are just the lowest criminals and slaves on the planet Sokka, and are the private property of the Grandmaster. Unless you have a close relationship with the Grandmaster, no one can have contact with the challenger. It seems that we still need to use other methods." Kyle sighed inwardly, but his face remained calm, not showing any concern. He stood up from his seat and said, "Let's go. Come back in 3 days." Bo was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed. "Mr. Kyle, you also like the Tournament of Champions, right? I was saying that Planet Sokka is too boring. After coming here, no one can resist the attraction of the Tournament of Champions." Kyle nodded slightly. Although his focus was different from Bo's, he was indeed very interested in the championship game. The two left as the last audience, leaving behind the silent and empty interstellar duel arena, as well as colorful bloodstains and the remains of alien creatures. After coming out of the gate of the duel venue with Bo, Kyle was about to return to his hotel residence. However, before he had taken a few steps in the venue square, he suddenly heard the buzzing sound of a spaceship engine above his head. "The seller of that broken axe is here. He might think you were a sucker and want to cheat you again," Bo said in a low voice. Kyle looked up and saw that it was indeed Enri's exclusive spaceship with a distinctive pink logo, which quickly stopped and hovered right above them. The smart door opened, and Enri's little pink head poked out of the cabin, smiled at Kyle below, and said, "Mr. Kyle, my sister said she wants to treat you to afternoon tea." Before Kyle could reply, Bo beside him clasped his hands, wagged his tail back and forth, and snorted in slight dissatisfaction. As if he heard something, and Lee's brother turned around and listened attentively, then smiled and continued to pass on the message. "My sister said that Mr. Bo must also do the honor of coming with Mr. Kyle. That's more like it." Bo nodded proudly. Kyle glanced at it and reminded coldly, "I haven't agreed yet." Bo quickly lowered his ears and tried to persuade him. "Mr. Kyle, you said you wanted to get close to the challenger. I, a small scavenger, can't do it, but Enri, the receptionist, may be able to do it. She works for the Grandmaster, so she may have the ability to make it happen." When Kyle heard this, his eyes lit up and he looked at Bo meaningfully. Bo felt a little pressured and lowered his head, stammering and no longer saying anything. "Not bad." After a moment of silence, Kyle smiled inexplicably and had a new understanding of Bo Bibwa is also a smart creature. Although he hadn't revealed much about his inner thoughts and urgency just now, Bo still saw something from his words and expressions and took the initiative to offer suggestions to pave the way for him. If before, the two were in a cooperative relationship of employer and tour guide, now Bo took the initiative to show his intention to curry favor with the boss. "Let's go," Kyle spoke, motioning Bo to follow, and walked first towards the stairs where the spaceship fell. Only then did Bo heave a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat off his forehead with his paws, and followed Kyle happily. Sokka Star Restaurant, the top 10 floor. Because of the inner city area close to the Grandmaster's residence, All buildings are not allowed to exceed half the height of the central building. Under the strict restrictions, the 10th floor is the highest height that can only be built with backstage personnel. The inner lobby of the restaurant on the 10th floor. Bo sat on the double soft seat, looking at Lee's brother across the table, who was eating and drinking heartily. He sighed from the bottom of his heart. It's a rare opportunity to come to the Interstellar restaurant. Why do you have to be with such a little brat? Can you dare to be more romantic? That calculating woman actually resorted to this trick. Bo glanced to the front with complaint. Kyle and Lee were sitting on the double seat on the other side, about 10 meters apart. Their conversation could not be heard over here at all. Forget it for the sake of delicious food. I'll forgive you this time. Bo sighed. His eyes fell on the delicious food on the table in front of him. He rolled up his sleeves, grabbed a big leg of meat, and stuffed it into his mouth. His speed was not much slower than Enley's brother. At this time, Kyle and Henry sat by the window on the 10th floor of the restaurant. The small wormhole in the sky refracted glare against the window. Looking out through the floor-to-ceiling windows, they could see half of the main city of Saka. And Lee was no longer wearing her work uniform, but had changed into an elegant long dress. Her appearance and facial features resembled those of a young human woman, except that her pink skin indicated that she was not human. She had obviously been dressed up carefully, wearing an exquisite necklace and earrings and waist-length ponytails. Her pink skin did not look out of place to Kyle, but rather had a faint alien charm. Of course, Kyle's appreciation was purely for the sake of appreciation, and he had no other ulterior motives. Star-Lord, who loves strong flavors, might like this one. Mr. Kyle, you must have just arrived on this planet not long ago, right? And Lee asked softly. Yes, I've only been here for about 2 days. Kyle nodded, not intending to hide anything. No wonder you're hanging out with the scavengers. When you first come to Saka, it's very necessary to have a local to guide you. And Lee chuckled and said with emotion, my parents' generation came to Saka, so my brother Shouty and I have lived on this planet since we were born. With a slight movement in his heart, Kyle got straight to the point and asked, you have lived here for such a long time, and you work in the exchange office under the Grandmaster. What is your relationship with the Grandmaster? Grandmaster. Enley hesitated, looked around, and whispered in awe and fear. No one dares to say that they have a good relationship with the Grandmaster. This planet is developed and ruled by the Grandmaster. This building, the main city of Saka, and even us can be said to belong to the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster is an extraordinary elder of the universe. He loves to collect rare items and powerful creatures from all over the universe. His mood changes depending on his mood. Enley paused, thought for a moment, and said, I have only seen the Grandmaster less than 5 times in such a long time. The Grandmaster usually appears in the form of a holographic projection, maintaining a sense of dignity and distance like a god. Chapter 175. Long, awaited card drawing, that's right. He is almost eternal life, mysterious abilities, and the power, fame, and wealth of the entire planet of Saka. The Grandmaster is simply the deified version of the local emperor on the planet Saka. Serving the emperor is like serving a tiger. The master may make friends with any creature, but it all depends on his mood. If you can make him feel better, then we are all good friends. If you make him feel worse, then I am sorry. If you want to live a peaceful and stable life on Sakar, it's best not to get to know the Grandmaster. And Lee emphasized her tone with a hint of warning. I don't intend to contact the Grandmaster. Kyle shrugged, poured himself a glass of alien wine elegantly, and said slowly, I'm interested in the challenger of the dual field. Challenger? Enley was surprised. Yes, in the preliminary round just now, there was a challenger who advanced to the semifinals. He looked a bit like a friend of mine. Kyle took a sip of wine and said calmly, This is difficult. And Lee frowned and said, If it was before this, maybe I could bribe the guards of the underground prison with money and exchange slaves. But the challengers who advance to the semifinals will have a championship match in 3 days. After the Grandmaster's visual confirmation, no matter how much money is spent, the guards will dare to let people go. What if it's just a one-time meeting? Kyle asked. That's no problem. And Lee smiled and said confidently, I know a prison guard who can arrange a meeting between you and the challenger. That's really a big help. Kyle smiled. In response, and Lee's face was as pink as a flower, and she said softly, "You're welcome. After all, you are an important customer of mine. If you have any business in the future, you must take good care of me. There is business, but I don't know if you are interested." Kyle took a sip of red wine and spoke. And Lee winked playfully and said jokingly, "Nothing below $1 million will be discussed." $1 million? That's a bit low. Kyle smiled, his eyes twinkling, and said seriously, "I am talking to you about a cooperation deal worth more than $10 million. More than $10 million? And Lee was stunned when she heard that. The wine she drank choked her, and she kept coughing, which attracted strange looks from Bai Bo and Xiao Di. Taking a deep breath, Lee calmed down and stared at Kyle with a trembling face. "Are you sure? You don't want to buy a high-end luxury spaceship, do you?" "Spaceship?" Kyle touched his chin and accepted the suggestion calmly and said, "Yes, we need to buy a spaceship. Unless one is an Asir who possesses the Rainbow Bridge. Anyone who moves in the universe and the stars needs an interstellar spaceship as a basic means of transportation." "But the deal worth over $10 million I told you about wasn't about the spaceship." Kyle shook his head. "So what do you want to buy?" And Lee said confidently, "Whether it's the black market or the exchange channel, I have everything and I guarantee you'll be satisfied. What I want to buy is a little hard to describe. Later I will ask Bai Bo to give you a list, and you just need to collect and deliver the goods according to the conditions on the list," Kyle said as he reached into his leather jacket pocket. Under Enri's surprised gaze, he pulled out an energy crystal wrapped in metal and glowing with a light white and blue luster. He pushed it forward on the double dining table. "Film money." Lee stared at the energy crystal in front of her, not caring about maintaining her elegance. She swallowed her saliva in an uncontrolled manner and then covered her mouth with her hands in shock. She looked around cautiously, and when she saw that the aliens eating around her didn't notice this side, she rolled her eyes at Kyle and said in a trembling voice, "This is $10 million. You just carry it with you like this?" "No way. This will be considered as half of the deposit." Kyle smiled. Not only film money, he also carried a lot of things with him. Card space. $10 million. You are so thoughtless to pay me in advance. Aren't you afraid that I will cheat you?" And Lee asked doubtfully. "Blackmail me? That doesn't exist. Or you can try." Kyle raised the corners of his mouth, revealing an evil and cold smile. When it comes to being black, no one can be blacker than him. When he first arrived on Sakaar, he had tried to be as gentle as possible. "I was just kidding." And Lily waved her hands awkwardly, her heart still in turmoil. At that moment, just now, she actually felt a dangerous aura, like a ferocious beast from the perfect man in front of her. Kyle thought for a moment and said, "I have a lot of stuff to buy. You can collect it in several batches. You can also pick a spaceship for me. It doesn't matter if it's luxurious or not. The important thing is that it has good enough performance to pass through unstable space wormholes and travel long distances in the universe." Lee nodded and asked in a slightly unnatural tone, "Do you want to leave planet Saka?" "I haven't had that idea yet, but I'm not a native here after all. One day, I will leave here. My family is still waiting for me." When he said the last sentence, Kyle clenched his fists, and his heart, which had always been as hard as stone, softened. "The Earth is his home. I understand. Before my parents died, they often mentioned the name of their home planet, unwilling to give up. If I have a chance in the future, I might risk my life to leave here and bring my parents' remains back to their home planet." As Lee spoke, the sadness on her face faded. She put the film money in her bag and said firmly, "Leave it to me." After reaching an agreement on the cooperation, Kyle returned to the hotel and quickly prepared a complicated and tedious list of items, which he handed over to Bai Bo to sort out, and then passed it to Lee. The list of items was prioritized by price, ranging from common laser pistols to laser guns, as well as various useless high-tech auxiliary items. Anyway, whatever was cheap would be bought, and the only restriction was that it had to be intact and not damaged. It was like recycling garbage, but what Kyle recycled was high-quality, intact interstellar garbage. Not to mention Bai Bo. Even Lee couldn't understand the shopping list at all, and didn't understand what the point of Kyle recycling so many cheap and useless items was. Although she didn't understand, and Lee still put the customer first and didn't ask too many questions. She worked efficiently and quickly, and the next day, she delivered the first batch of high-quality items, garbage, worth $1 million to the outer city warehouse that was rented specifically for Kyle. After Kyle received the inspection information, he immediately went to the warehouse in the outer city. An underground warehouse in the outer city. Kyle pressed the button to open the smart door, and the internal sound-sensing lights came on. The warehouse was square, just a spacious basement of 300 square meters. Basement center. A bunch of items derived from the universe's high-tech civilization are piled up like a mountain, such as laser guns that have lost their energy source, alien watches for fixed local communications, etc. The original grade of these items was not low, but because they had lost their original use value on this planet, they became high-grade garbage that is neither tasty nor worth throwing away, and each piece can only be recycled for $3,000 to $5,000. For Kyle, these high-quality garbage are the treasures waiting for him to develop. Chapter 176. 26 consecutive draws in a private warehouse in the outer city. Kyle approached the neatly arranged pile of high-tech items and took a quick glance. Suddenly, hundreds of blue cards appeared before his eyes. Yes, I was right about her. Kyle smiled calmly. And Lee's work efficiency was fast, and the goods she delivered were not adulterated. She had indeed selected and purchased items according to the list he gave her, and all of them were in perfect condition. Damaged items would have a high probability of being downgraded, making it difficult to grasp the accuracy. The shopping list he wrote included everything from rechargeable laser guns for alien combat to daily necessities and holographic communication. It doesn't matter what the recycled product is. What matters is that the item is originally of good quality. Fortunately, as a cosmic garbage dump, Saka Planet occasionally receives large-scale garbage dumping from advanced civilization planets in the Galactic Alliance, and the overall quality of the goods is more than one level higher than that of the Earth, which is still in the 20th century. On Earth, blue-grade items are cutting-edge high-tech products, but here, blue-grade items are just standard items that are everywhere. Start drawing cards. Kyle's mind moved slightly, and he read the frequency every 3 seconds, converting the items in the warehouse into item cards and storing them in the card space. Since the Second World War on Earth, there have been no new cards added to the material card area for a long time. This time, the long-awaited rain finally comes. 10 minutes later, Kyle cleared out all the items in the warehouse, closed his eyes, and his mind fell into the card space. In the vast white space, the white, green, and blue cards are divided into 4 or 5 areas according to their categories and uses, glowing like fireflies hovering in the air. It looks a bit too cold. Kyle shook his head and sighed. Without the super blue level cards such as the space or stone and the giant ancient dragon turtle, there was not even a trace of purple light in the card space. Even the rare blue-grade cards, Venom and Blue Eagle, were either gone or dead, and only the ability card Super Soldier remained. However, now under the countdown of the genetic disease, even this card has become increasingly dim. Thinking about it this way, I do have the illusion of being a lonely old man. Kyle's mind incarnation laughed at himself and came to the material card area. All the alien item cards were arranged and suspended in the air, waiting for him to process them. Blue item cards, total number 268. It's time to exchange for some new cards. My luck is already bad enough. Dare you give me luck for once? Kyle gritted his teeth. His mind moved slightly, and more than 200 blue item cards soared into the sky. Sacrifice card draw, blue grade, 26 consecutive draws, that's right. It's continuous pumping. It's all about the heartbeat. As Kyle felt anxious and expectant, all the cards in the material card area evaporated and disappeared. You sacrificed the low-voltage laser pistol, space protective suit, infant care assistance machine, implantable mechanical eyeball. The extraction was successful. Congratulations on obtaining Add Life. When Kyle heard the first sentence of the card drawing system, his mouth twitched. I'm almost dead. Why would I add you? The life-enhancing card increases the natural lifespan. All unnatural deaths and injuries due to illness are not within the scope. It is more accurate to say that it prolongs life rather than adding life, which is of no use to him now. However, The first card he drew still made Kyle open his eyes wide, and he saw a deep purple light flickering and illuminating the entire card space. It turned out to be the rare purple bonus life. Add life. Increase the user's natural lifespan by 300 years. Purple rare ability card. Current status. Available to others. Have to. White is 3 months. Green is 3 years. Blue is 30 years. And purple is as long as 300 years. Kyle couldn't help but hold his chest, feeling heartbroken. If he didn't have the genetic disease, he could have asked God for another 500 years. Ignoring his depression, Kayla started the show by pulling out the gun. Blue rare life bonus X5, small rocket backpack, vacuum toilet, black flame horse, Senza beans. Wait, a vacuum toilet? What kind of mess got in there again? But after drawing the familiar Senza beans more than halfway through, Kyle knew that this wave was not a loss, but a huge profit. Senza beans are specially used to treat all kinds of near-death injuries. As long as one is still alive, eating them can instantly restore a person's health to full. It can be used as a trump card to save one's life. Unfortunately, the magic beans are only effective for physical injuries, not serious illnesses. Otherwise, Sun Wukong would not have worried about a mere heart disease. I've strayed off topic. The card drawing is still going on. Intergalactic communicator, high-tech aviation suit, sweeping machine, Kryptonian poet oil painting, sodium carbon steel metal block. Mastery of the ancient divine language, electronic energy shield, bronze tripod, a little weak fire. 26 consecutive draws ended, and 26 brand new cards were created from nothingness and quietly suspended in the card space. Kyle, the incarnation of faith, licked his lips and could not help but quickly read the new cards, discarding the common cards first. Apart from the life-enhancing card series, 3 additional blue rare cards were drawn this time. The real character exploded. Kyle waved his hand, and 3 cards appeared in his hand. Senza Beans was naturally one of them, and the other 2 were Black Flame Horse and a little faint fire. Black Flame Horse. A horse-like creature that can properly manipulate the flames in its body. Blue rare creature card. Horse-like creatures with genes from ancient alien species. They are tall and strong, dark red in color, with tough skin that can withstand ordinary sword and gun attacks, and can run in the air at depths of 1 kilometer. The fastest running speed on the ground can reach twice the speed of sound, and half that in the air. There is a unique energy source in the body. The hose will continuously release black, high-temperature flames, and the person will instinctively step on the flames when running. It has a violent and unruly temperament and refuses to be disciplined. It has a certain ability to attack and is unwilling to be controlled by creatures other than its recognized master. Current status: summonable. Another superb mount. Kyle muttered to himself, vaguely seeing the shadow of the former blue eagle on the black flame horse creature card. Certainly, both are mount-type creatures, but they are essentially different. The blue eagle is more functional and is good at high-altitude surveillance and detection of enemies. The black flame horse is more of a combat type and comes with the flame-walking ability, which is too conspicuous and attracts attention. This is a bit inconsistent with my principle of keeping a low profile. Kyle touched his chin, unable to imagine in what kind of situation he would need to use the flame horse. If you ride this creature out, you will undoubtedly become the focus of attention of all creatures on the planet. Put it aside for now, Kyle said to himself, and stored the cards in the biological card area, then slowly looked at the 3rd rare blue card. A tiny spark? Kyle laughed when he saw the name of the card. The name of this card was weird and interesting, not much different from the weird egg. However, when his eyes fell on the card introduction, his breathing suddenly became rapid, and his eyes lit up with a look of surprise. Chapter 177 Mechanical Life-Wise, a little bit of weak fire. A weak fire star with mysterious energy. Blue rare item card. A mysterious energy derived from the origin of the universe, without any category, possesses the extraordinary power to give life to machines. When enough fire energy has completely permeated the machine, it will begin to integrate with it, and the machine body will gain the ability to evolve and transform, becoming a highly intelligent new mechanical life form with some kind of supernatural talent ability. The development direction of the talent ability is related to the original body of the machine. Current status can be materialized, but because the fire is too weak, it cannot be integrated with medium or large machines and can only be integrated with small mechanical objects. Kyle exited the card space with his mind, holding the item card between his fingers, his blue eyes glittering. Can it give machines the spark to evolve into humanized, intelligent creatures and create mechanical life? Artificial intelligence. Howard had been pursuing this thing for half his life and had obtained the concept of the future given by him. And with the advanced technological resources of Wakanda, he had only made a semi-intelligent system butler, which was still a long way from the completed super system artificial intelligence Jarvis. Not to mention mechanical life. It was not until the future Iron Man Tony and the Hulk Banner worked together to perfect the artificial intelligence system and integrate it with the Iron Man suit weapon that they accidentally succeeded in creating Ultron. Vision is an evolved creature based on the essence of Ultron, with vibranium, the Mind Stone, and the power of the Aesir. With this tiny spark, we can give a small machine a new life. Kyle came to his senses and sighed. If Howard knew, he would probably cry out loud. What should I use to carry this spark of fire? Kyle thought about it and quickly came up with an idea and pulled out a card. After it became a physical object, a small and exquisite smartphone lay on the palm of his left hand. The smartphone is based on the Apple smartphone and has been carefully processed and modified to be very fashionable and technological. The metal shell exudes a cool luster, and there is the English logo of Stark Industries on the back. 2 or 3 years ago, Kyle and Howard met using this phone. Before leaving the Earth, Howard rushed to modify it and left it to him as a souvenir. In Howard's words, the phone's shell is made of vibranium material with a small smart chip inside and coupled with Jarvis voice program system. It is the perfect masterpiece he can create. Howard gave you the body, and I gave you the soul within. Kyle smiled calmly. His mind moved slightly, and the card materialized. The card between the fingers of his right hand disappeared as if it had spontaneously combusted and turned into a wisp of faint blue flame, floating faintly on the palm of his right hand. The flame flickered and dimmed, and it seemed that it would be extinguished if blown. Kyle raised his right hand and brought the faint blue flame closer to the smartphone in his left hand. The flame seemed to have consciousness and consciously immersed itself into the phone. The next moment, a miracle happened. The body of the smartphone was wrapped in a crackling arc of electricity, and then the metal shell and the internal chip were mechanically upgraded and spread out, quickly forming mechanical limbs, a small head, and even robotic facial features. In less than 5 seconds, a small mechanical creature stood firmly on its left palm with 2 feet, raised its mechanical hand in a humane way, and looked itself up and down with its electronic eyes. The mechanical creature looked up at Kyle, then bowed like a gentleman. "Dear Master, thank you for giving me a new life." "Are you Jarvis?" Kyle was a little surprised because the mechanical creature spoke in the voice of Jarvis. A series of programmed data flashed in the eyes of the mechanical creature, and the one who came up with the theory said gently, "I am Jarvis, and I am not Jarvis. I am me, a unique new life created by the Master." "I'm speechless." Kyle laughed. Ultron and Vision are also based on Jarvis, but they are all new individual lives. From a biological point of view, it feels a bit like brothers. But the one in front of us can be called the ancestor of the future Jarvis. "Then what should I call you?" Kyle groaned. "I am your personal butler and attendant. You can call me Weiss." The mechanical life has a very low profile, and its voice is gentle and powerful, making people feel very safe and comfortable. Weisi, when translated into Chinese, means thinking in reverse, which reflects the human side of mechanical life. "Weiss, I need to know your specific ability and what kind of assistance it can bring to me." Kyle asked directly. Who would be so polite to his own mobile phone? Weiss nodded, and his body shape mechanically transformed, changing back to the original mobile phone shape within half a second. The speaker made a sound. "Spark, let me have the transformation ability." As it spoke, it transformed into a pair of tactical glasses, a mechanical watch, and finally back into a mechanical humanoid. It is limited to machine-like items that are not much different from the original file size. There's more. Kyle nodded. The basic ability of transformation is very good. After all, carrying a little robot on your body is also too exposed. Since the main body is a smartphone, I can control radio waves and use them to try to invade smart systems, equipment, etc. within the range, or use radio waves to conduct small-scale detailed reconnaissance. Weiss spread his hands, and without seeing him do anything, the voice-controlled lights in the underground warehouse where Kyle was suddenly turned off and then lit up again. Transformation is a racial talent bestowed by the Fire Seeds, and radio wave control is a characteristic bestowed by the mobile phone itself. Other than that, I have all the upgraded functions of the original mobile phone. Weiss spoke slowly, and once again controlled the lights in the warehouse to turn off. The electronic eye acted as a projection lens, and the soft light it emitted formed a holographic projection. The projected three-dimensional mirror shows dozens of glowing intelligent software, including alarm clock, communication, timer, music, movie, search engine, etc., and there is also a Q-shaped smiley face next to it. Very good. Kyle's eyes were filled with surprise, which was enough to surprise him. I originally thought that without a supercomputer as the operating body for information processing, the intelligence of mechanical creatures would be far lower than that of Jarvis. Now it seems that the power of the Spark has completely upgraded and evolved the mobile phone itself. Normally, you can transform into a mechanical watch. When necessary, tactical goggles will do. Kyle said thoughtfully. Weiss's original mechanical physique is made of vibranium material. With the protection of vibranium's properties, it is difficult to damage him even in the most intense battle. By the way, what do you usually need to eat? Kyle slapped his forehead. Due to inertia of thinking, he was unable to regard Weiss as a real living being for a moment. As long as it's energy, it doesn't matter if it's solid or liquid. The Weiss' electronic eyes flickered, but in a humanized way, with a hint of anticipation for delicious food. Chapter 178. Mechas and fighter planes are the romance of men. Kyle left the underground warehouse and just walked out of the door. He was surprised to find a small combat-style spaceship parked in front of the open space at the door. Similar to a dedicated combat aircraft, the fighter plane is like a steel falcon with its wings spread out, lying majestically on the ground. The sunlight falling on the fuselage reflects a faint, cold metallic light. With the advanced front laser muzzle and rear engine exhaust holes, no one would question its attack power and flight speed. Kyle was just wondering when the door of the cabin quickly rose up and Bo, covered in white fur, jumped down from the cabin, shouting, "Mr. Kyle, you finally came out. Is there something urgent?" Kyle asked. Before this, he did not bring Bo with him in order to draw cards. Receptionist only said that she has already arranged your thing, but the time is limited to this afternoon, so she asked me to come and pick you up. Bo said, spreading his hands. That thing, all right. Kyle couldn't help but look enlightened when he heard what Bo said and started to think about it. In addition to cooperating with Enli to purchase goods, the only thing he and Enli did was to meet the challenger. Let's go. Kyle walked towards the fighter plane. Bo followed him half a beat slower. He noticed that there was a communication watch on his wrist and asked in surprise, "You have a communication watch?" "I guess so." Kyle smiled calmly. "You should ask me to help you choose something else to buy. The items that Enli recycles may be cheap, but their appearance and performance are not good enough." Bo suggested, indirectly indicating that the communication electronic watch Kyle was wearing was ordinary, a civilian style that even scavengers on the planet Sokka often equipped with, and was not worthy of his status. Kyle laughed in silence and did not respond. Bo did not notice that while he was complaining, the screen of the communication electronic watch on Kyle's wrist kept flashing a series of digital symbols. Entering the fighter spacecraft, the lights in the cabin light up one by one. There are a pilot seat, a co-pilot seat, and 4 seats in the back row. The space inside the cabin is enough to accommodate 10 people without being crowded. Being inside this product of advanced technology, Kyle was overwhelmed by the atmosphere of science and technology. He even thought that he was on Earth in the 21st century. This is the fighter spaceship that receptionist Enli bought for you. It's worth 8 million Sokka coins. This fighter plane was one of the top fighter planes that the Grandmaster once collected. Later, because its appearance was not gorgeous enough, it was shelved for internal processing. Only internal staff, like Lee, can get it, Bo said, constantly rubbing the advanced instruments inside the fighter plane with his claws, his eyes full of longing and fascination, and the saliva in his mouth almost flowed out. No matter its configuration or performance, it has reached the top level of advanced cosmic technology. If there is any fighter plane on this planet that can pass through the Devil's Hole without damage, this must be one of them. Bo looked excited. He jumped up to the passenger seat, patted the driver's seat with his paw, and urged, "Mr. Kyle, believe me, you will love this feeling once you try it." Kyle shrugged, walked forward to the main driver's seat, and sat down. The soft seat automatically adjusted to a suitable sitting posture, and the map and fighter information appeared on the projection screen. He fumbled around until he found the engine switch and pressed it. The fighter plane began to float with a slight vibration. Bo fastened his seatbelt and put on his headphones, his face looking a little weird. "Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you, Mr. Kyle, have you ever flown a spaceship?" "No," Kyle answered simply. He hadn't even passed the driving test for a car, let alone a spaceship. "Ah, then I'll teach you slowly." Bo inexplicably revealed a trace of joy, thinking to himself, this is a good opportunity to show off in front of Kyle, prove that he is not a pet beast that eats and lives for free. No need. Kyle glanced at Bo beside him and concentrated his mind. 3 seconds later, the rare green ability card, Starship Piloting Mastery, was successfully extracted. Under Bo's wide-eyed gaze, Kyle, who was confused about the operation of various equipment the moment before, the next moment, his fingers were extremely skilled in clicking the screen quickly and pulling up the joystick. The fighter plane's engine roared, and a sudden burst of blue flames and compressed air erupted from the tail. It disappeared from the spot like a falcon with a whoosh, leaving behind turbulent air and strong winds. Wow! Under the sudden braking force, Bo's small body was squeezed hard on the seat, and he almost couldn't breathe. The buildings outside the driver's window were rapidly and blurrily moving backwards. Kyle's face was calm, and the sense of speed of operating the fighter plane made people inexplicably excited. There is a saying that mechas and fighter planes are the romance of men. He now had a vague understanding. Unfortunately, flying a fighter jet is still too troublesome and is not as good as automatic driving. "Weiss, are you there?" Kyle asked softly. As soon as he finished speaking, the electronic watch on his left wrist flickered. "My master, I am at your service 24 hours a day." Vess sent out radio waves, which were converted into audio by the headphones and transmitted to Kyle. Its tone was as friendly and easygoing as a butler, but its attitude was strict and serious. "It makes me feel like the villain boss," Kyle secretly complained and continued. "Try to hack into the computer system occupying this fighter and control it remotely." "Yes." The electronic watch screen flashed brightly, and after a series of digital symbols passed by, the feedback message was, "The silent radio wave invasion failed. The alien computer system has never been recorded in the database, and it is impossible to remotely invade and operate it. Then change it to on-site invasion and occupation." Kyle pondered. He had many scientific professional ability cards on him, so he could be considered half a scientist. "Yes." The electronic watch deformed slightly, and then a long mechanical limb stretched out from the side of the watch. The front end simulated a metal plug and was quickly inserted into a socket on the driving instrument. Bo held onto the seat tightly with his claws and did not notice that the fighter plane's projection screen flickered for a moment and then quickly returned to normal. Kyle heard a report from Vess through the headset speaker. "Successful on-site login. A Vess-specific Trojan virus has been implanted, and the computer system of the fighter can be remotely controlled in the future." Then, full speed ahead. Kyle took his hands off the driving instrument, and Vess followed the computer system. The fighter plane vibrated gently, and the speed soared to another level. It only takes a moment. In the square of the Interstellar Stadium, Henry, who had been waiting for a long time, looked up and saw a fighter plane flying from the far end of the sky over the outer city like a stream of light, and then stopped steadily in the center of the square. The cabin door opened, and Bo staggered down from the cabin, muttering, "Mr. Kyle, please drive slower next time." Kyle was too lazy to pay attention to it. After coming down, he walked straight to Enli. Enli bowed her head and led him to the Starfield Stadium and reminded him, "The guards only allow us to meet and talk across the underground prison for only 5 minutes. 5 minutes is enough." Kyle nodded. As long as he could be in close contact with the venom, 5 seconds would be enough, not to mention 5 minutes. Chapter 179. Malice from Massacre. Kyle, asked by Bo to stay on the fighter plane, and Enli took him into the interstellar duel venue. However, the passage was no longer the main gate as before, but a remote and unknown employee passage that led directly to the underground prison. When they reached the laser-protected door, they were immediately stopped by Sokka guards armed with laser guns. "No entry. If you take another step forward, you will be punished according to the Sokka law set by the Grandmaster." Kyle frowned slightly, and Enli waved her hand quickly, took out her ID card, and explained her purpose. "I am Enli, the receptionist of the exchange center, and this is Mr. Kyle. Before this, I have talked to your chief guard, and he has agreed for us to visit the Challenger." The Sokka guards looked at each other, and one of the older guards nodded and said coldly, "Wait a moment." He picked up the communication device and reported quietly. After hearing the order from the other end, his expression relaxed a lot, and he said to Enli, "It is true, but only one person can go in to visit, and only for 5 minutes." This time, it was Enli's turn to frown. Just as she was about to continue to negotiate for conditions, Kyle waved his hand to interrupt her and said slowly, "You just stay outside with Bo." "Okay then." Enli agreed reluctantly and took a few steps back. "I'll go in alone." Kyle stepped forward and said to the guards, "I will take you in, and you must not leave my side at all, otherwise I have the right to kill you. In addition, you need to wear this during the visit." The guard took out a small device from his equipment waist bag. Kyle recognized it immediately. It was a neurotoxin control device, one end of which was connected to the human body. As long as the button on the remote control was pressed, even if the target was Thor, he would be paralyzed and fall to the ground. Seeing Kyle's hesitation, the older guard couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, "Sir, the butler has already broken the rules by agreeing to let you visit the prison. Please don't make it difficult for us." "No problem, go ahead." Kyle nodded calmly, and the older guard approached him and inserted the small neurotoxin device just below his ear. With a slight sound, the device was adhered tightly to his neck. Kyle had a blank expression on his face and slightly adjusted his collar to cover up the device that was glowing with electricity. "Here." The older guard handed the controller to another guard, opened the laser protection door, and waved for Kyle to follow. Kyle took one last glance at the controller in the guard's hand, then calmly withdrew his gaze and followed the older guard who was leading the way. Walking in the underground passage leading to the prison below, no one noticed that Kyle's left wrist was empty and the electronic watch he was wearing was nowhere to be seen. "Ms. Enli, please wait outside first." The guard outside the laser protection door said to Enli with a smile. "Okay." Enli nodded slightly and stepped back outside, looking back every 5 steps. For some reason, she felt an indescribable sense of uneasiness. Maybe there are too many dead alien creatures here, which makes people feel stressed. Enli laughed at herself for being timid, took a deep breath, and completely left the gate of the underground prison. Not long after Enli left, the guard who was still guarding outside the prison gate put the controller into his pocket and quickly picked up the communication equipment. "Report to the steward. The man named Kyle has entered the dual prison." After the call was connected, the guard reported hurriedly. There was a long silence on the other end of the communication device, and then a hoarse and calm voice came. "Very good. Keep communicating and add a few more guards to the prison." "No problem," the guard responded respectfully. At this time, on the highest level of the Star Arena, the platform where Grandmasters usually visit to watch duels, the luxurious room was empty except for a middle-aged alien man with the high-rise blue dye of the planet Sokka painted on his face, sitting cross-legged on a mechanical seat. The guard executive turned off the communication device with one hand. The veins on his forehead bulged, and with the other hand he placed his 5 fingers on the mechanical seat, pressing it down so hard that it dented. His eyes were filled with cruel and cold emotions, and his pupils turned dark red. He muttered hoarsely with anger, "It's been half a year. I thought that man would never come here again, but he appeared in front of me again. As he was speaking, a layer of dark liquid wrapped around the head of the senior guard, like a real devil's hood, and his facial features were twisted and distorted in a hideous and torn manner. The senior guard raised one hand, which had a tough keratin membrane. His palm was huge, and his fingers were sharp. He picked up the steel glass on the table and laughed uncontrollably to suppress and dispel the fear in his heart. "Venom, whatever you dare not do, Slaughter, will do for you. After all, we are one. Only by completely erasing that man from this world can we gain true freedom." Tu Sha snorted coldly, squeezing the steel glass bottle so hard that it almost broke. He put it back on the table with a snap, picked up his windbreaker, put it on, and walked out of the room. The cracked glass bottle that was left behind was shaking slightly, and there seemed to be a ball of black liquid moving inside, like a living thing tumbling violently, trying to break free, but quickly and powerlessly returning to calm. Inside the passage of the underground prison, the guard was in front and Kyle was behind, going down the passage, with only the sound of their footsteps echoing in the passage. Who is the challenger you want to visit?" The guard turned around and asked curiously. "I don't know his name." Kyle thought for a moment and described it as, "He's the kid with tentacles who advanced to the semifinals and will participate in the championship game." "Oh, it's him." The guard nodded, but his expression became strange, and he asked another question. "Who is that kid to you?" "Like a friend of mine." Kyle spoke briefly, unwilling to reveal too much. The guard hesitated for a moment and said, "It's strange that the child prisoner was able to advance to the top 4. Even we guards were shocked." "Huh?" Kyle looked at him in surprise. "That kid was arrested a month ago by a guard I know. He was a thief from the outer city. He was nearly beaten to death before he was sent to prison, and he has been lying in jail sick ever."
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.